Chapter 1667. You want me to be your spy? Although the undying goddess's intelligence had decreased, she could still understand Yi Xian's meaning. If that's the case, wouldn't I be betraying my master? The undying goddess frowned. You don't have to make things difficult for him. After all, he won't dare to attack me openly. However, I'm afraid. Yi Xian hesitated. Brother Yi, I promise you. The undying goddess's beautiful eyes narrowed. She understood that she just didn't want Yi Xian to die. She didn't intend to betray the undying god lord. However, it wasn't a big deal to tell Yi Xian about the undying god lord's itinerary. Thank you. Yi Xian's eyes lit up. He bowed to the undying goddess. This made the undying goddess quickly move away. Next, the two chatted for half a day. Yi Xian used the excuse of going into seclusion to send the undying goddess away. He also told this woman not to fight with others. Then, the undying goddess left reluctantly. Yi Xian heaved a sigh of relief. It was really difficult for him to lie to a woman. Fortunately, his clumsy lie was believed by the undying goddess. This made Yi Xian sneer inwardly. Yi Xian had long wanted to deal with the undying god lord. However, his cultivation level was too low. He couldn't do anything to the undying god lord. With the undying goddess as his spy, it would be much easier for him to do things. Moreover, the undying goddess might be of great use to him in dealing with the undying god lord in the future. Boom! Yi Xian took a step forward and disappeared on the spot. He was going to deal with Li Taichu. After all, Li Taichu was still trapped in the gourd. In a quiet valley, as Yi Xian turned the green gourd upside down, a green light sprayed out. Li Taichu fell at Yi Xian's feet. Boom! In the next moment, Li Taichu suddenly stood up and pressed his palm against the broken sword. He looked at Yi Xian with an extremely cold gaze. Do you think you're still a match for me? Yi Xian asked calmly. Yi Xiaoyu, you're just lucky. If I had also entered the great peak of the immortal realm, I would have been able to use the sixth annihilation fifth sword. You would have died a long time ago, growled Li Taichu. But you won't have the chance. Yi Xian smiled. His smile was very peaceful. He calmly sat cross-legged in the void and looked down at the frosty Li Taichu. You? Li Taichu was rendered speechless. Just as Yi Xian had said, he really did not have a chance. He was seriously injured, and even if he recovered, the difference in their cultivation levels meant that he was no match for Yi Xian. I'm a person who cherishes talent. Although you're a little arrogant, I do admire you, Yi Xian said calmly. What are you trying to say? Li Taichu frowned as he looked at Yi Xian with a puzzled expression. I'll give you two choices. Either you follow me as a servant from now on, or I'll destroy you in both body and soul today. Yi Xian didn't waste any time and directly stated his purpose. Originally, Yi Xian wanted to kill Li Taichu. His cultivation of the 9 great heavenly gates was considered a great supplement to his original body. However, Yi Xian rejected the idea after some thought. His true body's cultivation level hadn't increased much after devouring Li Taichu's cultivation. As for Li Taichu, he was indeed a promising talent. His sixth annihilation sword intent had also caused Yi Xian to have a whole new level of respect for him. Yi Xian really wanted to see how far Li Taichu would grow after fully comprehending the sixth annihilation sword intent. Yi Xian didn't like many people, and Li Taichu was one of them. That was why Yi Xian didn't kill him. Take me as a servant? You're dreaming. Li Taichu roared in anger. It was impossible for him to be Yi Xian's servant. He wouldn't accept it at all. Li Taichu, he was an extremely proud person. He was also an extremely arrogant person. He had the sixth annihilation sword intent. He could be said to be a rare peerless genius in the universe. His goal was to be the strongest in the universe, and he had an invincible heart. How could he become Yi Xian's servant? It seems that you want to die. Yi Xian wasn't disappointed at all. He had already expected that Li Taichu wouldn't submit. This made his face turn cold, and his killing intent slowly overflowed. Yi Xiaoyu, you can kill me if you want, but you're dreaming if you want me to be your servant. Li Taichu would never submit. Moreover, he didn't want to submit to Yi Xian. The reason why he was defeated by Yi Xian was that Yi Xian was lucky enough to break through to the peak of Immortal realm. If they were at the same realm, Li Taichu was confident that he could kill Yi Xian with one slash. Seems like you don't want to submit? Yi Xian took a step forward, appearing in front of Li Taichu. Before he could react, Yi Xian's right hand grabbed his throat, lifting him up into the air. I'll ask you one more time. Are you willing to be my servant? Yi Xian's eyes were malicious. His 5 fingers emitted a tremendous power, as if he could break Li Taichu's neck in the next second. Yi Xiaoyu, you dog. Today I'm in your hands. You can kill me or cut me up as you wish. But I, Li Taichu, will never submit to you. It's not that I'm not good enough. It's just that you're lucky. Li Taichu roared with hatred. He wasn't afraid of death anymore. Seems like you're tired of living. Yi Xian's eyes were cold and gloomy. If he didn't want to be his servant, he could only kill this arrogant kid. Ha ha ha. Facing death, Li Taichu wasn't afraid. Instead, he laughed loudly. Yi Xiaoyu, even if you kill me, so what? Don't be complacent too early. Although you've reached the peak of Immortal Realm, Jiang Fuxing is also at the peak of Immortal Realm. Moreover, he has created his own technique in Dao. With your mediocre cultivation base, you'll die in his hands soon. With you dying with me, why wouldn't I be satisfied? Ha 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 ha. Li Taichu laughed arrogantly, as if he could already see Yi Xian's miserable death. He even looked at Yi Xian with a mocking look. Bang! All of a sudden, Yi Xian threw Li Taichu to the ground. He didn't kill Li Taichu. Instead, he clasped his hands behind his back and looked down at him. You won't kill me? Li Taichu was stunned. He didn't understand Yi Xian's behavior. What do you think of my cultivation base? Yi Xian didn't answer his question. Li Taichu was stunned. Then he sneered. You've cultivated a supreme technique. Although it seems powerful, it's only in terms of cultivation base. If you encounter a cultivator in the same realm, who has created his own technique in Dao, you won't be able to withstand a single blow. Why don't we make a bet? Yi Xian said with a faint smile. What kind of bet? Li Taichu was puzzled. He felt that Yi Xian was acting very strange. Not only did he not kill him, but he also said some strange things to him. Let's bet that I can suppress you in one blow if we're in the same realm, Yi Xian said with a strange smile. Chapter 1668. What a joke! After Li Taichu recovered from his astonishment, he sneered. You want to suppress me with one strike? If you hadn't reached the complete immortal realm, you would have been killed by my 4th sword. Where did you get the confidence to suppress me at the same realm? Looking at Li Taichu's unconvinced face, Yi Xian smiled. However, his smile became more and more strange. What if you lose? Yi Xian smiled. If you can suppress me at the same realm, I will recognize you as my master, Li Taichu sneered. Okay. Yi Xian was waiting for Li Taichu to say that. But what if you lose? Li Taichu wasn't stupid. He asked back. I can't lose. Yi Xian shook his head and continued. If I lose, not only will I let you go, but I will also explode in front of you. What? Li Taichu held his breath. He couldn't believe his ears. Was he crazy? How could he say something like that? They had fought before. Li Taichu had completely suppressed Yi Xian at the same realm. There was no suspense at all. Buzz! While Li Taichu was still in shock, Yi Xian threw a large number of divine pellets into Li Taichu's hand. These divine pellets are enough to heal your wounds and restore your cultivation to the peak. At that time, our bet will officially begin, Yi Xian said indifferently. Okay. You said it. You can't blame me if you want to die. Li Taichu didn't want to know why Yi Xian would do that. He didn't want to know where Yi Xian got his confidence from. He just wanted to heal his wounds as soon as possible and fulfill his bet with Yi Xian. He was confident that Yi Xian wouldn't be his opponent at the same realm. Soon, Li Taichu swallowed a large number of divine pellets and started to restore his damaged cultivation. After 1,000 years, he finally recovered from his wounds and returned to his peak state. Clang! 6 annihilations. Shocking sword will. When Li Taichu recovered to his peak state, he took a step forward and arrived in front of Yi Xian. His unparalleled sword will erupted. Not bad. You have indeed returned to your peak condition. Yi Xian examined Li Taichu and nodded lightly. You were the one who made the bet. Don't go back on your word. Li Taichu sneered. Of course. Yi Xian smiled and nodded. Then I'm going to make my move. Li Taichu had already placed his hand on the broken sword. This time he wanted to use the fourth sword. As long as Yi Xian didn't use his complete Immortal Realm cultivation base, he was sure that Yi Xian would be defeated by his fourth sword. Wait! Before Li Taichu could make a move, Yi Xian spoke up. What? Are you going back on your word? Li Taichu's expression changed. No, no, no. Yi Xian smiled, but his smile was very evil and playful. He said, this clone of mine is indeed no match for you. Naturally, my original body will fight you. Clone? As soon as Yi Xian finished speaking, Li Taichu was clearly stunned. Before he could react, what happened in the next moment caused Li Taichu to be stunned on the spot. Rumble! Yi Xian's body glowed. The passage between his clone and his original body opened. His original body walked out of the passage and quietly appeared in front of Li Taichu. This is the clone great divine technique? Li Taichu screamed in fright. He couldn't believe his eyes. Was the one he had fought just a clone? Clone? Complete Immortal Realm? What kind of joke was this? At this moment, Li Taichu was utterly confused. He was even more frightened. Unfortunately, Yi Xian didn't give Li Taichu a chance to think. Yi Xian's consciousness sank into his original body. 8 heavenly gates rose behind him. Although they didn't show any terrifying fluctuations, they faintly distorted the heaven and earth. Look, I'm so good to you. My original body has only opened 8 heavenly gates, but you have opened 9 heavenly gates. Not only are we at the same level, but my original body has opened 1 heavenly gate less than you. Yi Xian smiled evilly. 6 annihilations destroy all lives. Li Taichu didn't have time to analyze what was going on with Yi Xian. He directly used the fourth sword. He was even more confident that he could defeat Yi Xian. Eternal Reincarnation Fist. On this day, shrill screams came from the valley, accompanied by sorrowful cries. I'm not convinced. How can it be just 1 strike? Bang! 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 Ah! Shrill and ear-piercing cries shook the sky. Then I'll give you another chance. Bang! I don't believe it. Then I'll give you another chance. Rumble. On this day, the entire valley was shaking violently. Although no terrifying energy leaked out, Li Taichu's screams and cries were constantly heard. When the sun rose on the second day, the screams in the valley gradually stopped. 2 figures also walked out of the valley. Yi Xian. He was dressed in white and looked otherworldly. There was a faint smile on his face, and he gave off a feeling that he was as handsome as jade. Li Taichu. His nose was bruised and his face was swollen. His eyes were dark, and there were traces of blood seeping out of his mouth. The hand holding the broken sword was still trembling, as if he had been beaten up. He looked extremely miserable. The most important thing was Li Taichu's originally arrogant and unruly expression had completely disappeared. He followed behind Yi Xian, and looked at Yi Xian's back with fear and uneasiness. Once upon a time, Li Taichu believed that he wasn't inferior to any supreme genius. He believed that he could defeat all his enemies with his sword alone until he ascended the throne. But now, Yi Xian had shattered his pride and made him truly understand how big the gap between him and Yi Xian was. 1 blow. No, 1 punch. It was just 1 punch. His fourth sword couldn't withstand a single blow, and was directly defeated by this punch. He didn't even have the strength to resist. Li Taichu would never forget this terrifying scene. Until now, he still couldn't believe that there was such a powerful and terrifying person in the world. Such a person shouldn't exist. How could such a person exist? If he hadn't personally experienced the power of that punch, Li Taichu really wouldn't be willing to believe that there was such a powerful and invincible person in the world. He was more willing to believe that he was living in a dream, because he couldn't understand why he was defeated so miserably that he couldn't even withstand a single punch. The 6 annihilation killing sword intent that he was most proud of had been reduced to nothingness by this man's punch without the slightest ripple. Li Taichu's thoughts were in a mess until the corners of his mouth twitched, and he felt pain. He instantly came back to his senses. You liar! All of a sudden, Li Taichu stopped in his tracks. He covered his jet-black eyes and roared at Yi Xian. Yi Xian didn't understand. He looked back at Li Taichu and said, What did I lie to you about? You pretended to be weak. You're so powerful. But you lied to me and made a bet to make me acknowledge you as my master. Chapter 1669. Li Taichu was filled with grief and indignation as he complained about Yi Xian's crimes. Ha ha ha. Yi Xian laughed. When did I ever lie to you? You agreed to the bet yourself. And as you can see, my true body's cultivation base is only at the 8th gate of heaven. And don't forget, you were the one who swore that you could defeat me with a single strike of your sword. I didn't force you to make that bet, did I? Li Taichu's face flushed red when he saw Yi Xian's mocking expression. He wanted to refute, but he didn't know how to. Shameless. Li Taichu held back for a long time. But in the end, he could only spit out those 2 words. He sat on the ground dejectedly, feeling extremely depressed. Actually, you should feel honored to be my servant. After all, you'll get a lot of benefits if you follow me, said Yi Xian with a smile. Bullshit. You're just a doppelganger. But you're already at the peak of Immortal realm. Your true body is even more terrifying. Who in the entire chaotic universe can defeat you? When the next period begins, the title of strongest of all ages will be yours. What benefits will I get? Li Taichu muttered resentfully. He was extremely depressed. He used to be very confident. He didn't even take Jiang Fuxing seriously, because he believed that he could kill Jiang Fuxing with a single strike after breaking through to the peak of Immortal realm. But now, his confidence had been completely shattered by Yi Xian. After witnessing Yi Xian's heaven-defying cultivation base, he didn't have the slightest bit of confidence left. Strongest of all ages? Murmured Yi Xian. Then he looked up and smiled. The strongest of all ages is just a path that I have to pass. My ultimate goal isn't to become the strongest of all ages. And I won't wait until the next period. I'll achieve Tao in the 10th period. Ah! Yi Xian's words shocked Li Taichu. Li Taichu was stunned. Are you kidding me? The one who achieves Tao in the 10th period is the Lord of all spirits. How can you achieve Tao? Nothing is absolute in this world. Rules can be broken by people. And I can certainly break this rule. So although you've acknowledged me as your master and become my servant, you can still compete for the position of strongest of all ages in the next period. This won't affect you in any way. Yi Xian paused for a moment, his eyes deepened. And so-called heaven-defying geniuses. With you so-called heaven-defying geniuses. Because. 4. Do you understand now? Yi Xian stepped forward to help Li Taichu up, and affectionately patted his shoulder as he said, Your talent is not bad, and the 6 annihilations you created is indeed powerful. This is also the reason why I admire you. Be my servant well, and I won't treat you unfairly. Alright. Although Li Taichu was arrogant, he could accept his loss. After experiencing the suppression of the original body, he also understood the true gap between him and Yi Xian. So be it. Yi Xian's strength was indeed unfathomable. Fortunately, Yi Xian didn't want to compete for the position of strongest of all ages in the next period. Following him could be considered a form of training. Li Taichu finally untied the knot in his heart. He bowed to Yi Xian and said, Li Taichu accepts his loss. From now on, I am your servant. Come call me master. Yi Xian chuckled and teased. And master. Li Taichu's face turned red. His pride didn't allow him to say those 2 words. But when he thought of their bet, he still had to keep his promise. That's a good boy. Yi Xian smiled and called out to Li Taichu. The 2 of them headed out of the valley. Where are we going? Li Taichu asked. Since I've taken in a male servant, I naturally have to take in a female servant. I think that Jun Wushuang is not bad. Let's go meet her. After all, it's interesting to take in a peerless goddess as a servant, Yi Xian said with a smile. Li Taichu was stunned. Then, a strange look appeared on his face. He prayed for Jun Wushuang in his heart, hoping that she wouldn't be fooled like he was. She should pray for her own good. Strolling in the sky, the wind and clouds were light. I don't understand. Although you've cultivated the external avatar technique, your original body is so powerful. Not to mention these people in the 100 Seedlings battlefield. Even in the entire chaotic universe, there shouldn't be anyone below the half-step to the strongest. Why did you let a clone participate? If your original body appeared, you would be able to sweep away all the enemies in the universe. No one would be your match. Li Taichu followed behind Yi Xian with a puzzled look. He didn't understand why Yi Xian wanted to use a clone to travel. His original body, which had such a terrifying cultivation, was silent. Since he had taken Li Taichu as a servant, Yi Xian naturally had to tell him about himself. My original body can't appear because these strongest of all ages want to kill me. With my original body's current cultivation, if I appear, I will definitely be killed by them. So, you have to keep this a secret for me. Otherwise, if the strongest of all ages outside know about it, I won't be able to escape, Yi Xian said. Hearing Yi Xian's explanation, Li Taichu's expression changed. He seemed to have thought of something, and looked at Yi Xian in surprise. You can't be the legendary Yi Xian, right? You're smart. You're right. Yi Xian smiled faintly and admitted it. After all, he had to tell Li Taichu sooner or later. He couldn't hide his identity forever. Li Taichu couldn't stay calm anymore. He looked at Yi Xian with a complicated expression. Actually, Li Taichu had been looking for Yi Xian. There were too many rumors about Yi Xian. They described him to be very powerful. There were even rumors that he had killed the Lord of the Supreme Demons. Li Taichu absolutely did not believe in such absurd and unruly things. He wanted to find Yi Xian personally, and kill him with a sword to prove that he, Li Taichu, was much stronger than Yi Xian. Unfortunately, before he could find Yi Xian, the news of Yi Xian's death spread. He had no choice but to give up. What Li Taichu didn't expect was that he would meet this legendary person in the 100 Seedlings battlefield, and become his servant. You said that Jun Wushuang is in seclusion here. Why can't I see her? The two of them strolled in the clouds. Yi Xian wasn't in the mood to guess what Li Taichu was thinking. Instead, he casually asked about Jun Wushuang's whereabouts. I can't be wrong. She must be active in this area. That damned girl is also very arrogant, always alone. There was once when I almost fought with her, but I was stopped by Jiang Fusheng. Li Taichu came to his senses and said, It seems that she hid her aura. Otherwise, it's impossible that I can't find her, Yi Xian said faintly. Although his clone was at the Immortal Great Perfection stage, there was still a huge gap between him and his original body. If Jun Wushuang hid her aura, he wouldn't be able to sense her. Chapter 1670. Li Taichu, from a proud son of heaven, he was gradually turning into a qualified lackey, and began to follow Yi Xian's lead. Without waiting for Yi Xian's order, Li Taichu took a step forward, and his whole body was like Tong Tian, blooming with unparalleled sword intent. Jun Wushuang, come out and see me. The world shook, and Li Taichu's voice filled the world. Even if Jun Wushuang was cultivating in seclusion, she would definitely be awakened. Sure enough, boom, a purple light shot up into the sky, and the peerless goddess Jun Wushuang appeared in an instant. Her cold and stunning appearance was full of frost. It's you. When she saw Li Taichu and Yi Xian, Jun Wushuang was slightly stunned, and a feeling of fear suddenly rose in her heart. Logically speaking, Li Taichu had fallen into the hands of Yi Xian, and there was absolutely no chance of survival. But now that the two of them appeared at the same time, Jun Wushuang suddenly felt incredulous. Li Taichu, he didn't kill you? Jun Wushuang frowned. I have already recognized him as my master, so he naturally won't kill me. Li Taichu smiled coldly. Humph. Jun Wushuang instantly understood, and then coldly snorted. So you are also a greedy person who is afraid of death. In order to live, you are willing to be a lackey. Originally, Jun Wushuang's impression of Li Taichu was not bad. After all, Li Taichu's cultivation was there, and it was enough to compete with her. But now, Jun Wushuang despised Li Taichu to the extreme, and directly labeled him as a lackey. Lackey? Ha ha ha. Li Taichu laughed wildly, but his aura became colder, and his eyes revealed a touch of ridicule and mockery as he looked at Jun Wushuang. If Jun Wushuang had seen the strength of Yi Xian, she would not say so. But it didn't matter. In a while, Jun Wushuang would be like him, and become Yi Xian's servant. At that time, let's see if she would still say that she was Yi Xian's lackey. Jun Wushuang, I advise you to surrender and obediently follow master as a maid, lest master personally suppress you. Li Taichu sneered. Bah! Jun Wushuang was furious and spat. Li Taichu, you are so shameless. I thought you were my enemy, but now it seems that you are just an incompetent villain. Smelly girl. I gave you some face and you still want to open a dye shop. Today, I will personally suppress you. Clang clang clang. 6 annihilations. Shocking sword intent. Li Taichu's palm pressed upon the broken sword. Although he was not a match for Yi Xian, but against Jun Wushuang, he was not the least bit afraid, and was instead eager to give it a try. Slow down. Without waiting for Li Taichu to make a move, Yi Xian slowly walked over. This caused Li Taichu to be slightly stunned, and the sword intent all over his body dissipated. Little girl, you are no match for me. Come back with me obediently and be a maid. Otherwise, if I hurt you when I attack, you won't have a chance. Yi Xian laughed. Shameless boasting. Jun Wushuang was so angry that she laughed. She knew that Yi Xian had reached the complete immortal realm, but she was not a pushover that Yi Xian could do whatever he wanted to her. Seems like you are very confident in yourself. Yi Xian smiled, but his smile was evil and strange. When his smile fell into Li Taichu's eyes, it instantly caused Li Taichu's expression to become extremely strange. When Yi Xian had made a bet with him, he also showed the same smile. He was afraid that history would repeat itself. Indeed, Yi Xian opened his mouth. How about you and I make a bet? What bet? Jun Wushuang was stunned. Let's bet that I can suppress you in one strike when we are at the same realm. Yi Xian smiled and said. What a joke. You. Jun Wushuang was so angry that she laughed. At this moment, Li Taichu's face became more and more strange, looking at Jun Wushuang with pity. It was the exact same plot, and the exact same dialogue. There was no need to guess the result. Jun Wushuang's ending would be the same as his. However, Li Taichu didn't remind Jun Wushuang out of kindness. He was gloating because Jun Wushuang was about to follow his footsteps. Stinky girl, let's see if you still call me a lackey. Li Taichu was gloating in his heart, ready to watch a good show. Half a day passed. Yi Xian was strolling in the sky, followed by a man and a woman. They were Li Taichu and Jun Wushuang. Haha. Li Taichu smiled strangely, as if he was talking to himself. I wonder who called me a lackey just now. How come you are now a servant like me? Oh, it's our goddess Jun Wushuang? Li Taichu ridiculed, not leaving any face for Jun Wushuang at all. Shut up. Jun Wushuang was so ashamed that she shouted at Li Taichu. She couldn't wait to find a hole to hide in. Just now, Jun Wushuang had also experienced the terrifying cultivation of the main body. Her ending was no different from Li Taichu's. According to the bet, she also became Yi Xian's servant. Alright, the two of you stop bickering. From now on, the two of you will be by my side. In the end, you two will be a family. What are you arguing about? Yi Xian pretended to scold him. Yes, master. Originally, Li Taichu was not used to calling Yi Xian master. But with Jun Wushuang as a scapegoat, he was extremely happy. It was also very smooth when he called Yi Xian master, as if he was mocking Jun Wushuang. Li Taichu was arrogant. Jun Wushuang was cold. When the two of them walked together, it could be said that they were not pleasing to the eye. But for Yi Xian, to be able to subdue two great geniuses was enough to make him feel gratified. Master, where are we going? Jun Wushuang was still not used to it, but she was also someone who admitted defeat. Since she had lost the bet and became Yi Xian's servant, she had to follow Yi Xian wherever he went. To look for Jiang Fuxing and Xiebaitu, Yi Xian said casually. Master, don't tell me you want to subdue them too. Li Taichu was startled. No. Yi Xian smiled and shook his head. I have no intention of taking them as servants. I want to kill them to prevent future troubles. Yi Xian paused for a moment. The smile on his face gradually turned gloomy, and he said in a cold voice, not only the two of them, but the rest of the people in the 100 Seedlings battlefield will be killed. Hearing Yi Xian's words, the two of them had a change of expression. They did not expect Yi Xian to be so fierce that he wanted to kill everyone in the 100 Seedlings battlefield. Sensing the shock in the two of them, Yi Xian smiled. Naturally, he would not explain anything to the two of them. This was because Yi Xian only treated the 100 Seedlings battlefield as a good place to improve his cultivation. Moreover, he kept these people in captivity to improve their cultivation, so that he could devour them. The most important thing was that a forbidden figure had walked out of the river of chaos. This was something that he did not want the strongest of all ages outside to know. This was because he was the only one who had interacted with this forbidden figure. If the strongest of all ages knew about this, they would definitely target him. Therefore, for his own sake, Yi Xian had to kill all the remaining people in the 100 Seedlings battlefield. However, the 100 Seedlings battlefield was extremely vast. Many people were hiding, and it was indeed too troublesome to find them one by one. Chapter 1671. Therefore, Yi Xian chose to kill Jiang Fuxing and Xie Baitu first. After all, Jiang Fuxing's perfect stage immortal realm cultivation made Yi Xian very envious. Boom! The three of them flew in the sky and began to search for Jiang Fuxing and Xie Baitu. However, something happened that made Yi Xian speechless. Jiang Fuxing and Xie Baitu actually went into hiding. No one knew if they were in seclusion or doing something. Yi Xian actually couldn't find them even after searching for 3 years. Since he couldn't find them, Yi Xian couldn't waste his time. He could only bring Jun Wushuang and Li Taichu back to the cave abode to cultivate. Time was like water, passing in the blink of an eye. More than 1,000,000 years had passed. There were only a few 100,000 years left until the end of the 100 Seedlings battlefield. The 100 Seedlings battlefield of the 10th Eon was also about to end. Boom! Suddenly on a certain day, the entire 100 Seedlings battlefield shook violently. A golden light shot up to the sky from the center. A light door appeared, and the exit of the 100 Seedlings battlefield opened. Is it finally ending? Yi Xian slowly opened his eyes. He looked at the door of light that had been opened, and a strange and cruel smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Master, we can walk out of the 100 Seedlings battlefield now, said Li Taichu. That's right. The first one to walk out of the 100 Seedlings battlefield will be the champion, said Jun Wushuang. Champion? Yi Xian shook his head in disdain. I have no interest in being the champion. Let's go. Yi Xian stood up, took a step forward and whistled out. Li Taichu and Jun Wushuang followed closely behind, all of them heading towards the open door. In the center, buzz! The light door opened and golden light shone brightly. As long as they entered the light door, they would be able to leave the 100 Seedlings battlefield and end the war. The void rippled. Yi Xian instantly appeared in front of the light door. However, he didn't walk out of the 100 Seedlings battlefield. Instead, he sat down in front of the light door. Master, what are you? Li Taichu was confused. He thought Yi Xian was going to leave the 100 Seedlings battlefield. He didn't expect Yi Xian to block the exit. Wang! Yi Xian ignored their astonished expressions. With a flip of his hand, 2 green gourds appeared, and he casually tossed them to them. If one comes, kill one. If 2 comes, kill a pair. Absorb all of their blood and qi into the gourd. Yi Xian immediately gave out the task. After catching the gourd that Yi Xian tossed over, the 2 of them were stunned. They did not expect Yi Xian to be so ruthless. He really did not intend to let anyone in the 100 Seedlings battlefield go. However, Yi Xian was the master, and the 2 of them were servants. Since Yi Xian had given them a task, the 2 of them naturally had to complete it. They could only stand beside Yi Xian and wait for these people to arrive, just as Yi Xian had thought. If he were to search one by one, who knew how much time it would take, and he might not even be able to find them. Now that he had blocked the exit, the people hidden in the 100 Seedlings battlefield would definitely appear one by one. This was because once the exit was closed, those who did not walk out of the 100 Seedlings battlefield would have to stay there forever. The exit would only open again when the 100 Seedlings battlefield opened in the 11th Eon. Therefore, no one would stay here. Yi Xian blocked the exit, preparing to kill anyone who came until he killed everyone in the 100 Seedlings battlefield. Time was like water, passing in the blink of an eye. Yi Xian was the first to reach the exit. Not long after, people rushed over. However, when they saw Yi Xian blocking the exit, Their faces turned extremely pale. Divine Child of Destruction, what are you doing? There were 8 people who rushed over, and all of them were saints and saintesses of large sections. Their cultivation had already opened 8 heavenly gates, and they could be considered overlords in the outside world. Obviously, they had gained a lot of benefits in the 100 Seedlings battlefield over the past tens of millions of years, and their cultivation had increased tremendously. However, they also knew that they were not a match for those heaven-defying geniuses. Therefore, they chose to hide and wait for the 100 Seedlings battlefield to end before leaving this place. Unfortunately, they had a good plan, but Yi Xian did not give them the chance at all. Kill. Yi Xian could not be bothered to talk nonsense with these ants. He waved his hand and gave the order. Li Taichu and Jun Wushuang looked at each other with murderous intent in their eyes. Clang! The 6 annihilations was unparalleled. Boom! The extreme purple heavenly power was earth-shattering. The 2 heaven-defying geniuses did not make a move, but when they did, it was earth-shattering. How many people in the world could go against them? No! Spare me! Why do you want to kill me? The 8 saints and saintesses cried out miserably, but they all died in the hands of the 2 heaven-defying geniuses, without even having the chance to resist. Although Li Taichu and Jun Wushuang acknowledged Yi Xian as their master, and seemed to be Yi Xian's servants, that was only because Yi Xian's cultivation was much higher. Putting Yi Xian aside, the 2 of them had extremely terrifying cultivation, and they were both geniuses who had walked out of the law and Tao. How could these so-called saints and saintesses be a match for the 2 of them? Killing them was as easy as eating and drinking. Keep. The 2 heaven-defying geniuses completed the task given to them by Yi Xian, and the 8 people's blood qi and cultivation were all sucked into the gourd. Very good, well done. Yi Xian nodded in satisfaction, and words of praise came from his mouth. Yi Xian suddenly realized that he had made the right choice by taking the 2 of them as servants. With these 2 heaven-defying geniuses by his side, he did not have to personally kill these useless people. At this moment, Yi Xian sat peacefully in front of the exit, looking calm and composed. With his 2 servants killing these people for him, it was enough to put him in a good mood. Divine Child of Destruction, don't go overboard. Aren't you afraid of being punished by the strongest for killing your fellow Taoists? Several groups of people rushed to the exit, and when they saw the 2 heaven-defying geniuses killing innocent people and following Yi Xian's orders, they were furious. Noisy. Yi Xian frowned. Die. Li Taichu slashed out with his sword, and the sky seemed to split under his sword. These people were all turned into a bloody mist, and they could not be more dead. How many have you killed? Yi Xian asked calmly. 98, Li Taichu replied. How many people are left? Yi Xian asked. There should be about 100 people left in the White Chess battlefield, but they should have seen what happened here. They are all hiding in the distance and do not dare to come over. Li Taichu reported truthfully. Wait. Yi Xian said simply. Anyway, as long as he blocked the exit, these people would appear sooner or later. Otherwise, when the exit was closed, these people would be trapped in the 100 Seedlings battlefield until they died. As expected, as time passed, some people braced themselves and appeared. Some of them begged Yi Xian for mercy, while others teamed up to break out. Sorry. All dead. Yi Xian waved his hand and killed the 2 heaven-defying geniuses, leaving no room for negotiation. In front of the exit, Yi Xian was full of smiles. Li Taichu and Jun Wushuang had killed more than 100 people, and their blood qi and cultivation were all stored in the gourd. This was a huge treasure. Yi Xian was secretly calculating. Among these people, the weakest had opened 7 heavenly gates. He wondered if his main body could open the 9th heavenly gate if he devoured them. Yi Xian was secretly looking forward to it. Yi Xiaoyu. All of a sudden, 2 figures walked over from the horizon. They were Jiang Fuxing and Xie Baitu, and there were dozens of people following behind them. They were obviously the last cultivators left in the 100 Seedlings battlefield. Chapter 1672. At the same time, for example, the undying goddess, Luo Yao Lu Yaoxing, and the others also appeared in this world at the same time. However, They didn't have any enmity towards Yixian. After all, they'd had a lot of interactions before, so they knew that Yixian wouldn't make things difficult for them. On the other side, Yixian appeared quietly. He didn't speak or move, but there was a hint of fear in his eyes when he looked at Yixian. Yixian was very glad that he was Yixian's disciple. Otherwise, he would definitely have to fight with Yixian today, and the result would be self-evident. I've been waiting for you guys for a long time. Looking at Jiang Fuxing and Xie Baitu, Yixian revealed a bright smile, and a hint of killing intent flashed in his eyes. Jiang Fuxing and Xie Baitu might be unreachable in the eyes of others, but to Yixian, they were just slightly stronger ants. However, no matter how strong an ant was, they were still ants. Yixian would ruthlessly stomp them to death, and that would be their fate. Yi Xiaoyu, you killed your fellow Taoists. You are unforgivable. Yi Xiaoyu, as the successor of the Destruction Shrine, you actually started a massacre in the 100 Seedlings battlefield, causing the deaths of so many of your fellow Taoists. We will definitely report your crimes to the strongest. Destruction, Divine Child, get out of the way. It's not too late for you to turn back now. The few remaining holy sons and holy daughters all began to denounce Yixian. They were like a group of flies buzzing non-stop. Kill them. Yixian frowned. Clang. Boom. Li Taichu slashed out with his sword, and Jun Wushuang waved her hand. The two heaven-defying monsters obeyed, and used the Annihilation Great Art to kill all of them. Boom. Without waiting for their attacks to land, Jiang Fuxing and Xie Baitu frowned, and unleashed a grand art to cancel out their attacks. Xie Baitu. Evil demon chi swirled around his body. The black light circled around his body, accompanied by the faint wails of dead souls. A dark heavenly gate opened behind him, and his entire body emitted an extremely evil aura. There were even blood souls that were faintly discernible within the heavenly gate. Complete immortal realm. When Xie Baitu revealed his true cultivation, the entire world darkened. That extremely evil power was released, causing people to tremble in fear just by looking at it. Jiang Fuxing. Green chi swirled around his body. The green light flowed in the void, and faintly merged with his body. The shadow of an ancient tree appeared behind him, blooming with vitality. A green heavenly gate opened behind him. The light green vitality made people's hearts tremble. A mysterious halo faintly appeared on Jiang Fuxing's body. He was also at the complete immortal realm, and his cultivation base was one level higher than Xie Baitu's. He was only one step away from the half-step strongest. Damn it, those two have really hidden themselves well. Such a scene made Li Taichu and Jun Wushuang's expressions change slightly. They had only opened the 9 heavenly gates. Compared to those two, they were a full stage away. Brother Yi, you've killed many people. You should be the leader of the 100 Seedlings battlefield. Why must you be so ruthless? Jiang Fuxing strolled over with a smile on his face. He still looked like a nice guy, and didn't show any hostility towards Yixian. Yi Xiaoyu, if you want to die, I can fulfill your wish. Xie Baitu didn't say much. His evil aura surged, and he didn't take Yixian seriously at all. Brother Yi, I actually want to be friends with you. After all, we don't have any enmity between us. There's no need to fight to the death, right? Jiang Fuxing was still smiling. The two were like the black and white devils. One was the bad guy, and the other was the good guy. This also made Yixian chuckle, and give them a death sentence. Actually, Jiang Fuxing didn't want to fight with Yixian, because he had a lot of scruples. Li Taichu and Jun Wushuang were both subdued by Yixian. This also proved that Yixian wasn't as simple as he looked. Kill them. Yixian called out to Li Taichu and Jun Wushuang, and gave them an order. 6 Annihilation. Extreme purple heavenly energy. The two heaven-defying monsters attacked, and went straight for Jiang Fuxing and Xie Baitu. Jiang Fuxing, don't think that I'm afraid of you just because you're at the immortal great perfection stage. Today I'll see how powerful you are. Kill. Li Taichu's sword broke the sky. The shocking 6 Annihilation sword intent bloomed, and slashed at Jiang Fuxing. Xie Baitu, let's see if your great heavenly demon art, or my extreme purple heavenly energy is more powerful. Jun Wushuang didn't want to fall behind. She raised her hand and attacked Xie Baitu. In the next moment, the 4 heaven-defying monsters clashed. Although Li Taichu and Xie Baitu's cultivation was weaker, they were still heaven-defying monsters. Jiang Fuxing and Xie Baitu didn't dare to underestimate them. Kill. Breakthrough. As the four heaven-defying monsters engaged in a chaotic battle, the other dozens of holy sons and holy daughters roared as they charged towards Yi Xian. All sorts of terrifying techniques were being unleashed. Obviously, these people wanted to force their way through. As long as they could walk out of the 100 Seedlings battlefield, Yi Xian wouldn't be able to do anything to them. After all, there were eternal supremes guarding the outside world. These people had a good idea. However, they had underestimated Yi Xian's strength. Boom! Karma filled the sky. Destructive thunder. Yi Xian flipped the sky with his palm. The heaven and earth trembled. The terrifying karma threads pierced through the void and turned into the most terrifying weapons, shooting at these people. At the same time, destructive thunder was growing. Anyone who came into contact with the destructive thunder was struck and turned into a bloody mist. Their ending was extremely tragic. Withdraw. Yi Xian smiled evilly. A green gourd appeared and turned upside down. An extremely terrifying suction force appeared and sucked the bloody qi into the gourd. After doing all this, Yi Xian put away the green gourd with satisfaction. These people all died tragically on the spot. None of them survived. Just Yi Xian's clone alone was enough to defeat these so-called successors of the major sections. This made the undying goddess and the others who were watching from the side shudder in fear. Chaotic battle heaven and earth. Endless divine might. After Yi Xian cleaned up the trash, he continued to observe the battle of the four heaven-defying monsters. He secretly praised Jiang Fuxing and Xie Baitu's cultivation. He had to admit, Jiang Fuxing and Xie Baitu were both people who walked on their own paths. However, the paths they walked were at two extremes. Jiang Fuxing's divine light was majestic while Xie Baitu's demonic light rumbled. Both of them were at the complete immortal realm. Coupled with their own comprehensions, it was indeed terrifying to the extreme. On the other hand, although Li Taichu and Jun Wushuang were both heaven-defying monsters, their battle strength was also unparalleled. However, the two of them were one level apart in terms of cultivation. After a series of exchanges, Li Taichu and Jun Wushuang were obviously at a disadvantage. 6 annihilations destroy all lives. Purple extreme quakes the world. Rumble. Li Taichu was finally forced to use the fourth sword, and Jun Wushuang had also used her trump card. That terrifying might was blooming, and it was all aimed at Jiang Fuxing and Xie Baitu. Chapter 1673. However, it was a pity. The difference in cultivation was huge. Although it was only one realm, it was enough to make Li Taichu and Jun Wushuang lose. Mysterious sky return. Heavenly demon rotation. Jiang Fuxing and Xie Baitu roared at the same time. The two of them launched a shocking attack, sending Li Taichu and Jun Wushuang flying. Defeated. Li Taichu and Jun Wushuang were defeated. It wasn't because of their cultivation, but because of the difference in cultivation. Boom. Yi Xian took a step forward. The void under his feet exploded. He caught Li Taichu and Jun Wushuang, then looked at Jiang Fuxing and Xie Baitu calmly. Unfortunately, I'm still one step away from the complete immortal realm. Otherwise I can definitely kill them, Li Taichu said with hatred. Seems like only master can do it yourself. Jun Wushuang said coldly. Actually, whether it was Li Taichu or Jun Wushuang, they knew that they weren't Jiang Fuxing and Xie Baitu's opponents. After all, the difference in cultivation was obvious. In the end, only Yi Xian could kill them. However, being able to fight with the two of them could be considered as fulfilling one of their wishes. Well done. Back off. Yi Xian patted their shoulders calmly. This made Li Taichu and Jun Wushuang retreat behind Yi Xian. However, the two of them looked at Jiang Fuxing and Xie Baitu with pity. Yi Xiaoyu, do you want to die? Xie Baitu sneered. He was at the complete immortal realm. Moreover, he was a great evil of the devil Dao. Although Yi Xian was also at the complete immortal realm, Yi Xian only cultivated the strongest technique. He wasn't Xie Baitu's opponent at all. Brother Yi, why do you have to be so aggressive? As long as you're willing to leave, we can be friends. Why do you have to fight? Jiang Fuxing frowned. Jiang Fuxing was very shrewd. His ability to observe people's expressions was even more powerful. He had always felt that Yi Xian was a dangerous person, and the look that Li Taichu and Jun Wushuang gave him had made his heart skip a beat. Danger! Jiang Fuxing immediately sensed the danger, so he did not want to fight with Yi Xian. He even lowered his status as much as possible. Jiang Fuxing, a mere Yi Xiaoyu is enough to scare you like this. If you don't dare to attack, then let me kill him. Xie Baitu smiled disdainfully. Jiang Fuxing's expression changed, and he couldn't hold it in any longer. He looked at Yi Xian again and said, Brother Yi, if you continue to force me, then I might have to experience it as well. The two of you can come at me together. Otherwise, I'm afraid you won't be able to rest in peace. Yi Xian laughed. He smiled and crooked his finger at the two of them. Then, with a flip of his hand, he unleashed a starlight technique, directly sealing off the area where the three of them were. Heaven and earth were sealed and starlight filled the air. When the three of them disappeared from everyone's sight, a sigh came from afar. It was Yi Xuanma, because he knew that Jiang Fuxing and Xie Baitu would definitely die, unless the strongest of the ages entered the 100 seedlings battlefield to save them. They would definitely not be able to come out alive. Inside the heaven sealing array, Jiang Fuxing and Xie Baitu looked at each other, then looked at Yi Xian in shock. They suddenly had an extremely bad feeling. Tisk tsk. Yi Xian shook his head and sighed. What a pity. The two of you are considered amazing people, and have the chance to become the strongest. Unfortunately you met me. Deliberately mystifying things. Go to hell. Xie Baitu did not care what Yi Xian was doing. He immediately unleashed a great sky demon technique at Yi Xian. He believed that Yi Xian would not be able to block this attack. Rumble! The great sky demon was in chaos, and the souls of the dead were wailing. This great sky demon technique reversed the universe and the sun and moon, and it carried the power to destroy the world as it blasted towards Yi Xian. All of a sudden, a figure walked out from behind Yi Xian. A bit of sky-burying divine light was released, and the so-called great sky demon technique disappeared without a trace. What? How is this possible? When this strange scene appeared, Jiang Fuxing and Xie Baitu were horrified. The two of them rubbed their eyes hard, and saw a young man in black standing side by side with Yi Xian. However, the appearance of Yi Xian's clone was too shocking. The black-clothed man had a cold and unsmiling appearance, as he indifferently stared at the two of them. Just the look in the man's eyes made the two of them gasp. Their scalps were numb, and their hearts were beating extremely fast. What kind of look was that? Murderous, heartless, fierce. Even the way he looked at them was as if he was looking at ants, which made the two of them tremble in fear. Actually, the two of you should be proud. You actually made my original body appear. You should die in peace, Yi Xian said calmly. Original body? Jiang Fuxing was startled at first, and then his expression changed drastically. He unconsciously took a few steps back, and looked at Yi Xian with extreme horror. You've cultivated the avatar technique? Jiang Fuxing's face was pale. He finally understood why he'd always been fearful of Yi Xian. It turned out that the person he'd faced before was only an avatar of the other party. And this man in black was the real body. No wonder he kept feeling that something was wrong. I don't care if it's your original body or a clone. Today, I will destroy your body and soul. Xie Baitu was fierce by nature. He didn't think as much as Jiang Fuxing, and he didn't believe that Yi Xian could defeat him. Sky Demon Extermination. Roar! Xie Baitu directly used his strongest killing move. His entire body erupted with shocking demonic light, and the terrifying heaven gate merged with him. A terrifying demonic figure walked out of the gate. Kill! Boom! Xie Baitu punched out, and the demonic figure moved with him. The terrifying demonic light bloomed to the extreme and blasted towards Yi Xian. You're too weak. Suddenly the original body spoke. One finger. Just one finger. The original body pointed out, and with this finger, heaven and earth froze. Everything seemed to be frozen in place. The demonic figure froze in midair, and even Xie Baitu's punch stopped. Dong! 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 The original body slowly walked forward. With each step, it was as if he was stepping on Xie Baitu's heartstrings. making Xiaobai suffer an unparalleled calamity. Wah! A mouthful of blood sprayed out from Xiaobaitu's mouth. Just the terrifying steps Yi Xian took as he walked towards him had already caused his mind to tremble violently and his soul to crack. Boom! When Yi Xian took the final step, Xiaobaitu's demonic figure exploded. He was dispirited, and the immortal heaven gate behind him was on the verge of collapse. How can this be? How can this be? Xiaobaitu roared unwillingly. He tried his best to raise his arm, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't move at all. The strong are like the heavens, and the weak are like dogs. This is the difference between you and me, the original body said indifferently. Who are you? Tell me who you are. Xiaobaitu roared, trembling. He couldn't believe there was such a strong person in the world. He had walked his own path, and was even at the peak immortal realm. How come he couldn't even fight back? Who I am isn't important. What's important is that you're just a skeleton under my feet. Go! Yi Xian pointed out a finger, and that strand of heaven burial samsara halo appeared. Xiaobaitu screamed miserably, and his entire body actually shattered inch by inch, exploding into pieces in the air with a boom. Chapter 1674. What did it mean to die with a grievance? Xiaobaitu died with a grievance. Even when he was beaten to death by Yi Xian didn't tell him who he was. Xiaobaitu was a peerless genius, but his end was too miserable. He didn't leave any trace in the chaotic universe. The Great Tao was a battle of blood. Only the strong could walk to the end. Otherwise, even if you were a peerless genius or a heaven-defying monster, you would only be a stepping stone for others. The world wouldn't even remember the existence of such a person. Collect. The blue gourd spun, and the blood chi that filled the sky was sucked into the gourd. When Yi Xian finished, a satisfied smile appeared on his face. You, who are you? Suddenly, a trembling voice came. Jiang Fuxing was trembling. His originally gentle face was extremely pale. He could not believe it. It was unbelievable. It was as if he had fallen into the greatest nightmare of all time. Jiang Fuxing couldn't help but tremble. He wanted to control himself, but his body wouldn't listen to him. Even his teeth were chattering violently. Fear. The greatest fear he'd ever felt. Jiang Fuxing was retreating. His face was filled with fear and trepidation. He looked at Yi Xian with indescribable fear. It's your turn. Yi Xian turned to look at Xiaobaitu. His eyes were indifferent to the extreme, as if he was looking at an ant. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Jiang Fuxing trembled. I've traveled the entire chaotic universe and experienced countless dangers. That's how I reached my current cultivation level and created the Xiantian divine technique. I boast that I'm invincible in the same realm. But how can there be someone as strong as you in the world? Jiang Fuxing was definitely a peerless genius. He was aloof and cunning. He'd always been walking on the path of cultivation, like he was treading on thin ice. He was neither arrogant nor rash. He kept a low profile. His goal was to become the strongest of all time. He was confident that no one below the half-step strongest was his opponent. But now, Yi Xian's appearance had shattered all his hopes. To his horror, he discovered that he was not the strongest. The person standing before him was much stronger than him, so strong that he could easily kill him. It's getting late. I'll send you on your way. Boom! His real body was glowing. This was the light of heaven burying reincarnation. The profound meaning of reincarnation circulated around his body, and the space around him started to turn illusory, burying the heavens, destroying the earth, reincarnating for eternity. This represented the ultimate level of death, and it caused Jiang Fuxing to tremble. His heart was filled with despair. He was dead for sure. These 4 simple words were enough to explain Jiang Fuxing's thoughts. He didn't need to fight with Yi Xian. Just by sensing his aura, he knew that he wasn't a match for Yi Xian. He would definitely die at the hands of Yi Xian. However, Jiang Fuxing couldn't understand. Yi Xian's real body had only opened 8 gates of heaven, and he had been at the complete immortal realm for many years. Why was he weaker than Yi Xian? What terrified Jiang Fuxing the most was that the Xiantian divine technique he created was useless in front of Yi Xian. The aura released by his opponent suppressed his Xiantian divine technique to the extreme. Die! His real body moved. The eternal reincarnation fist was thrown out. The profound meaning of reincarnation appeared, as if the universe would be turned into nothingness in this punch. Xiantian divine technique. At this critical moment, Jiang Fuxing wouldn't just sit there and wait for death. He pushed his cultivation to the extreme, and the green light exploded. Boom! Blood dyed the sky, and the green light shattered. Jiang Fuxing actually withstood Yi Xian's eternal reincarnation fist. Although he was sent flying by the punch, and his body was cracked, he survived Yi Xian's attack. He wasn't killed by Yi Xian's punch. Yi Xian was slightly stunned, and then he smiled. Not bad. You actually withstood my punch. You're really interesting. You're Yi Xian? Puff. Jiang Fuxing's body was cracked, and blood was flowing out of his mouth. He staggered back. Even though he withstood Yi Xian's punch, he was still severely injured. Oh, how did you guess? Yi Xian asked in surprise. It's really you. Jiang Fuxing's expression changed drastically when he heard Yi Xian admit it. In fact, he was just testing. He didn't expect Yi Xian to admit it. In the 10th Yin gathering, only Lu Bai, and you can be said to be my greatest enemy. I once fought with Lu Bai in secret, and Lu Bai and I were evenly matched. Apart from Lu Bai, only you are left, Jiang Fuxing said with a trembling voice. When Jiang Fuxing mentioned Lu Bai, Yi Xian's expression suddenly turned cold. He looked at Jiang Fuxing maliciously and said, You think you're worthy of being mentioned in the same breath as Brother Bai? Boom! His main body suddenly raised his 5 fingers, and the 8 heavenly gates rotated with a loud rumble. An aura that could bury the heavens and destroy the earth spread out. Lu Bai was Yi Xian's taboo. A mere Jiang Fuxing dared to compare Lu Bai. This made Yi Xian want to kill him. Yi Xian, don't go too far. Suddenly Jiang Fuxing roared. The immortal heavenly gates trembled. An extremely terrifying aura was emitted from the heavenly gates, as if he had some kind of terrifying trump card. Yi Xian, how about we make a deal? Let me go, and we'll stay out of each other's business. I can swear on the great heart demon that I won't reveal any of your secrets, Jiang Fuxing said. Haha. Yi Xian laughed. Jiang Fuxing was actually negotiating with him. Half step to the omnipotent. Yi Xian indifferently looked at Jiang Fuxing and directly exposed Jiang Fuxing's true thoughts. Hiss. Jiang Fuxing was shocked. He didn't expect Yi Xian to guess his thoughts. In fact, he was already at the complete immortal realm before entering the battlefield of 100. After thousands of years of experience, he was only 1 step away from the half step to the omnipotent realm. He could easily take this step, but he couldn't take it. Once he became a half step to the omnipotent realm, he would lose the qualification to compete for the omnipotent realm in the next Yuanhui. However, facing the threat of Yi Xian, he could only make a choice. He could either become a half step to the omnipotent realm and survive this crisis, or die in the hands of Yi Xian. Therefore, he didn't want to take this step. He really couldn't bear to give up the omnipotent realm seat. He hoped that Yi Xian would take a step back and let him go. You're really naive. Do you think I'll give you a chance to become a half step to the omnipotent realm? Boom. Heaven burying, earth trapping absolute kill. Yi Xian attacked Jiang Fuxing. There was no way he would give Jiang Fuxing a chance to become a half step to the omnipotent realm. I'll fight it out with you, Jiang Fuxing roared. The immortal heavenly gates trembled in fear. An extremely terrifying aura was emitted from his body. He was about to enter the half step to the omnipotent realm. Chapter 1675. No one wanted to die. Jiang Fuxing was no exception. Even if he didn't want to give up the position of the strongest, he could only choose to stay alive. Freeze! Just as Jiang Fuxing was about to break through to the half-step omnipotent realm, a simple word rang out in this space. My body. My cultivation. The next moment, Jiang Fuxing screamed in horror. He found that he couldn't move his body, and his cultivation had quieted down. The most terrifying thing was that a mysterious halo of light was pressing down on his head, and it was this mysterious halo of light that caused him to be rooted to the ground. Are you wondering why you can't move? Boom. Yi Xian took a step forward and quietly appeared in front of Jiang Fuxing. A faint smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Heaven burying reincarnation, all living things mourn. This is my law and Tao. How can you break free from reincarnation? Yi Xian whispered calmly. Ever since the original body started cultivating and opened the 8 gates of heaven, his cultivation was no longer the same as before. Moreover, after experiencing so many years of bitter cultivation, no matter if it's my cultivation or technique, they've already undergone tremendous changes. So how could it be something that Jiang Fuxing could resist? How can this be? Jiang Fuxing screamed in horror. He tried his best to activate his cultivation, but he couldn't break free from the shackles that Yi Xian had placed on him. How boring. You can die now. Boom. The original body slapped out. Jiang Fuxing's eyes were bloodshot. He roared, but he still exploded on the spot, turning into a bloody mist that drifted down. What a pity! What a pity! Jiang Fuxing didn't expect that even if he gave up the position of the strongest, he wouldn't succeed in breaking through to the half-step strongest. Instead, he would die in the hands of Yi Xian. Withdraw. The bloody mist was absorbed by the green gourd, and the space gradually cleared up. Boom. The teleportation channel opened, and the original body gradually disappeared from Yi Xian's eyes. After doing all this, Yi Xian nodded in satisfaction, killing 2 peak Immortal Realm experts in a row, and plundering their cultivation bases, could be considered as resolving one of Yi Xian's worries. It was just that Yi Xian couldn't help but sigh. This Jiang Fuxing could also be considered a genius. If he had really been allowed to step into the half-step omnipotent realm, just now, he was afraid that there would be unexpected problems. Boom! Yi Xian dispersed the starlight in the sky, and reappeared in the 100 Seedlings battlefield. Li Taichu and the others had been waiting for a long time. Hiss! As Yi Xian appeared alone, Xie Baitu and Jiang Fuxing's figures were nowhere to be seen. Li Taichu and the others sucked in a breath of cold air, and looked at Yi Xian with extremely complicated expressions. The Master of Chaos growled majestically. He looked at the extreme love goddess with a burning gaze. He could not believe what she had said. They're all dead. Other than the few of us, no one else survived. The extreme love goddess was obviously frightened by the 100 Seedlings battlefield. She hid behind the extreme love master and trembled all over. In fact, the reason why she could walk out of the 100 Seedlings battlefield safely was because Yi Xian had secretly taken care of her. Otherwise, with her cultivation, she would have died in the 100 Seedlings battlefield long ago. After all, the extreme love master and Yi Xian had a special relationship. For the sake of the extreme love master, Yi Xian could not sit by and do nothing. My disciple who killed them? The undead god master asked the undead goddess with a gloomy look. However, his gaze was always on Yi Xian. No need to ask. I killed the space-time divine child. I suppressed the destiny goddess. Suddenly, Li Taichu and Jun Wushuang walked out at the same time, and admitted it directly. Ahem. In the next moment, under the destruction master's complicated gaze, Yi Xian coughed softly and walked out as well. He said, I killed the chaotic divine child. Silence. Silence. A deathly silence. When the 3 of them spoke at the same time, an extremely oppressive atmosphere grew. The aura of the 3 omnipotent beings was terrifying. Good. The Chaos Master clapped his hands and smiled. However, his smile was extremely cold, and he did not say much. Before entering the 100 Seedlings battlefield, the rules were set. No one was allowed to settle accounts with anyone who happened in the 100 Seedlings battlefield. No matter how angry these omnipotent beings were, they could not break this rule. After all, their disciples were not as strong as others and died in the hands of others. Yi Xiaoyu, that useless disciple of mine died in your hands. He deserved it. However, you are very bold. Even when I asked for mercy, you did not give me any face. You are indeed very arrogant. The sky-devouring demon master said indifferently. He had never forgotten how Yi Xian ignored his existence and killed the sky-devouring demon master directly. Sky-devouring, are you threatening my disciple? The destruction master was instantly displeased. As an omnipotent being, do I need to threaten an ant? The sky-devouring demon master sneered. My disciple? Where are the successors of those great orthodoxies? The extreme love master looked puzzled and asked the extreme love goddess. They all died in his hands. The extreme love goddess's face was pale. She would never forget Yi Xian's cruel methods. She pointed at Yi Xian with trembling fingers. Chapter 1676. What? The 8 supreme experts were flabbergasted as they looked at Yi Xian, with faces full of fear. Even the Lord of Destruction's expression had changed to one of shock. He killed them all. The Master of Extreme Love was no longer calm. She asked her disciple again with a look of shock in her eyes. He blocked the exit. They're all dead. The heavenly maiden of extreme love was in a trance as she spoke intermittently. She simply explained the matter of the 100 Princes battlefield. It was obvious that the fear Yi Xian brought to her wasn't light. Good, very good. Destruction, you've really taught a good disciple. The sky-devouring demon master laughed coldly. What a ruthless move. I've underestimated you. The undead god lord said with a gloomy expression. His gaze was fixed on Yi Xian. Although the other supreme beings did not say anything, their expressions were extremely ugly. An extremely heavy atmosphere grew, causing the entire place to freeze. Xiaoyu? The Lord of Destruction frowned. He did not expect Yi Xian to be so ruthless as to block the exit and kill people. Wouldn't this make him a target for everyone? These people were the successors of various great orthodoxies. Killing them was equivalent to offending the great orthodoxies behind them. This was not a big deal. After all, Yi Xian was the divine child of destruction. He had the protection of the Temple of Destruction and the Lord of Destruction. These orthodoxies would not dare to act recklessly. Most importantly, Yi Xian had killed the chaotic divine child and the goddess of destiny. Even the sky-devouring demon child had died at his hands. Killing the successors of 3 supreme beings in a row was equivalent to offending 3 supreme orthodoxies. Even the Lord of Destruction was slightly shaken. He was in a difficult position now. In the eternal universe, destruction reigned supreme. They were not as strong as others, so they naturally had to be prepared to die. Could it be that you want to settle the score later? Yi Xian said calmly. As Yi Xian finished speaking, the supreme beings held their breaths. They were the ones who set the rules of the 100 Seedlings battlefield. For those who participated in the 100 Seedlings battlefield, their fates were up to fate. They were not allowed to seek revenge after the battle. Naturally, they could not break this rule. Otherwise, they would lose all face. That's right. This disciple of mine has suppressed all the heroes. Although his methods are a little ruthless, it's either you die or I die in the 100 Seedlings battlefield. If any of you want to pursue the matter, then I'll have to say something. The Lord of Destruction quickly came to his senses and stepped forward to speak up for Yi Xian. After all, Yi Xian was his disciple. How could he just sit by and watch? Destruction, have we ever said anything about punishing Yi Xiaoyu? Asked the Master of Fate. Yi Xiaoyu, you've done well, the Master of Primal Chaos said solemnly. I was just lucky. Yi Xian smiled faintly. He was still elegant and courteous. He even clasped his fists at the 2 powerhouses. I'm very curious about one thing. With your cultivation base, how did you manage to kill so many people? Even the most powerful successor died in your hands? Suddenly, the undying Heaven Lord said coldly as he scrutinized Yi Xian with his Dharma eyes. After experiencing tens of millions of years of battles in the 100 Seedlings battlefield, your cultivation base has indeed reached the immortal great perfection realm. However, the 2 juniors beside you have already created their own Dharma and Tao. They're clearly stronger than you, so why do they have to listen to you? The undying Heaven Lord directly pointed out the main point. He did not believe that Yi Xian was so capable that he could make Jun Wushuang and Li Taichu listen to him with just his looks and charisma. Wasn't that just a fantasy? Moreover, according to the goddess of extreme love, everything that Yi Xian did in the 100 Seedlings battlefield was indescribably strange. Perhaps the goddess of extreme love did not notice anything, but the undying Heaven Lord as a powerhouse naturally noticed something fishy. Undying Heaven Lord, you've been targeting me since the beginning. Do you have to find a reason to punish me? Yi Xian frowned. How dare you talk to me like that? The undying Heaven Lord's face turned cold. Yi Xian's attitude showed no respect for a powerhouse, which made him look at Yi Xian even more unfriendly. In fact, the undying Heaven Lord had wanted to kill Yi Xian from the beginning. This feeling had always been there, and even he could not understand it. It was as if there was a voice in his heart telling him that Yi Xiaoyu was a threat, and that he had to kill him as soon as possible. I'm just arguing for what's right. Do you think you can slander and doubt others as you wish just because you're a powerhouse? Can't you let others refute you? Yi Xian said coldly. Undying, what do you mean? Are you trying to break the rules of the 100 Seedlings battlefield? The Destruction Lord asked coldly. Humph. The undying Heaven Lord snorted and sank down. However, his eyes were still cold as he looked at Yi Xian. Master, please don't make things difficult for Brother Yi. If he didn't save my life, I would have died in the 100 Seedlings battlefield, the undying Heaven Lord said. Shut up. How dare you speak? The undying Heaven Lord scolded coldly. This made the undying Heaven Lord's face turn pale. She quickly shut her mouth, and could only secretly give Yi Xian an apologetic look. All right, since Yi Xiaoyu won in the 100 Seedlings battlefield, this is already an indisputable fact. We don't need to dwell on it anymore. I now announce that the winner of the 10th Yuanhui 100 Seedlings battlefield is Yi Xiaoyu of the Destruction Shrine. The Lord of Chaos announced majestically. As for the remaining people, he did not even bother to announce their names. This was because there were less than 10 people who had come out. The so-called top 10 winners were just a joke. Disperse everyone. The Lord of Chaos stood up in the void and had the intention to leave. After all, even his disciple had died tragically in the hands of Yi Xian. Naturally, he would not be in a good mood. Wait! Suddenly, without waiting for the Lord of Chaos to leave, Yi Xian took a step forward and directly blocked the path of the other powerhouses. Xiaoyu, what are you doing? The Lord of Destruction's expression changed. He did not expect Yi Xian to be so bold. These powerhouses had already decided not to target him, but he still blocked their path. Master, disciple remembers that we had an agreement before. If anyone can become the top 3 victors, the 3 great experts will each teach them a supreme secret technique. I wonder if I'm wrong, Yi Xian said calmly. As Yi Xian's words fell, the Lord of Destruction was stunned. The other powerhouses also had complicated expressions, especially the Lord of Chaos and Destiny. At this moment, his expression was as gloomy as water. Not only did Yi Xian kill their disciple, but he also wanted the 3 powerhouses to impart their secret techniques. This was simply asking for too much. Could it be that the previous agreement was just a joke by the powerhouses? If that's the case, Xiaoyu has nothing to say. Yi Xian smiled faintly and stepped aside. However, this also caused the 3 powerhouses' expressions to darken. They did not leave just like that. At the level of an ancient powerhouse, the most important thing was their reputation. Naturally, they could not go back on their words. Otherwise, they would definitely be ridiculed by all. As powerhouses, we naturally mean what we say. You are the first person to walk out of the 100 Seedlings battlefield. You can tell me whatever techniques you want to learn. I will impart them to you, the Lord of Chaos said in a deep voice. Chapter 1677. The same goes for the 2 of you. The Master of Destiny looked at Li Taichu and Jun Wushuang, which made them perk up. Although the 2 of them had walked on their own path, it was still a great opportunity for them to learn a supreme secret technique. The Temple of Destruction has no lack of secret techniques, but I have always been curious about the legendary heaven-shattering cauldron. I heard that each of the 3 supreme beings has one. I wonder if I can study it for 1,000 years? Yi Xian rolled his eyes and made his request. As Yi Xian's words fell, the 3 supreme beings' expressions changed. A cold light flashed across their eyes. The 3 supreme beings did not expect Yi Xian to be so bold as to break the heaven-shattering cauldron. The heaven-shattering cauldron was a supreme treasure in their hands. How could they give it to an outsider to study? We are the same. We hope that the 3 supreme beings will agree. Li Taichu and Jun Wushuang looked at each other and bowed to the 3 supreme beings. After all, Yi Xian's request was their request. They naturally had to stand on the same boat as Yi Xian. Xiao Yu, don't be rude. The heaven-shattering cauldron is not something you can covet. The Master of Destruction hurriedly reprimanded Yi Xian, and kept winking at Yi Xian, hoping that Yi Xian would stop while he was ahead. He also secretly blamed Yi Xian for being too bold to make such an unreasonable request. One had to know that Yi Xian had already offended two of the strongest experts by killing the divine son of primal chaos and the heavenly maiden of destiny. Now he actually wanted to borrow the heaven-shattering cauldron to comprehend it. What a pity. Yi Xian ignored the Master of Destruction's hint. He looked at the three supreme beings with a smile, waiting for them to give him an answer. All right. Suddenly, the Master of Chaos nodded slowly. However, a cold light flashed across his eyes as he looked at Yi Xian. Wang, the Lord of Chaos, flipped his hand, and a small cauldron appeared in his palm. He then threw it at Yi Xian, who carefully caught it in his hand. Since you're the victor of the 100 Seedlings battlefield, and have made this request to me, I'll fulfill your wish. I'll lend you this cauldron for 1,000 years. After 1,000 years, I'll personally take it back. After the Master of Chaos finished speaking, he took a step forward and disappeared. 1,000 years later, the small cauldron will be returned. The Master of Fate and the Master of Time and Space didn't waste any more words. They directly threw out two small cauldrons and placed them in Li Taichu and Yi Xian's hands. Then, they took a deep look at Yi Xian and left. The three small cauldrons were simple and unadorned. This caused the eyes of the other supreme beings to light up. Greed flashed across their eyes. However, they could only sigh in their hearts. They knew that these three small cauldrons were not fated with them. Master, we can go now. Yi Xian smiled, and put the cauldron away before speaking to the Lord of Destruction. You, sigh. The Lord of Destruction sighed. He didn't know what to say about his disciples' bold actions. Rumble. 9 black dragons pulled the black ancient chariot over. The Lord of Destruction called out to Yi Xian, and entered the chariot together. Li Taichu and Yi Xian looked at each other. Both of them were servants of Yi Xian. Naturally, they would go wherever Yi Xian went. Let's go. The two of them took a step forward, and came to the sides of the chariot. As the 9 black dragons roared, they pulled the black ancient chariot and left. This lad is a big threat. Seeing that Yi Xian and the Lord of Destruction had left, the undead Heaven Lord's face turned cold as he concluded. It's still too early for him to become the strongest in the next Yuanhui. Only half of the 10th Yuanhui has passed. There are still hundreds of millions of years before it ends. There are too many variables. It's just a fool's dream for him to become the strongest. The heaven-devouring demon master sneered. The 100 Seedlings battlefield can indeed see a person's potential. However, nothing is absolute in this world. After hundreds of millions of years, will there still be someone who can become the strongest? The Extreme Love Master muttered. In the eastern region of the 5 regions of chaos, kill, boundless heaven and earth, destruction of all spells. Thousands of divine lights soared into the sky as the void in all directions collapsed inch by inch. Countless cultivators fell from the sky as their blood splattered all over the sky. One person, a black-robed man. His skin was bronze and his face was chiseled. When his eyes opened and closed, it was as if the stars in the sky were rotating in his eyes. Yi Fengtian, you destroyed my Wuji heaven sect. Today, I will make sure you die without a burial place. Rumble. Tens of thousands of cultivators were charging forward, causing the entire world to tremble in terror. It was unknown just how many great killing techniques were unleashed upon the black-clad young man. Lawful embodiment of heaven and earth. Rumble. The black-robed man roared. His body expanded terrifyingly and directly turned into a giant of heaven and earth. With a punch, everything was destroyed. Bang! 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 Mountains collapsed and rivers were destroyed. This punch blasted through millions of miles of the void, turning thousands of cultivators into ashes. Buzz! The black-robed man returned to the size of a normal person. Blood rained down, wetting his clothes, but it did not cause him to move at all. Bang! A heavenly gate opened behind the black-robed man. He was actually a cultivator who had just entered the immortal realm. In the entire eastern region, he was an overlord. Tribulation transcender technique. Roar! The black-robed man opened his mouth wide, and the blood mist that filled the sky rushed towards him, turning into a huge amount of energy that was swallowed by him. After doing all this, the black-robed man's eyes were in a trance. He looked at the mountains and rivers of thousands of miles away as murmurs came from his mouth. Master, where are you? I finally came to the chaotic world to look for you. Do you still remember Little Stone? The black-robed man was melancholy. He had gone through thousands of tribulations and dangers, and finally came to the chaotic world, in order to follow in the footsteps of his master. A total of 200 million years had passed. From a child back then, he had cultivated to the immortal realm. Only he knew how difficult it had been for him to achieve this. Others wanted to prove their Tao to be the strongest, but his only goal was to follow in the footsteps of his master, and stay by his side forever. He did not have a name. When he was a child, he was called Little Stone, until he met a person who changed his life. It was also this person who gave him a name and changed his ordinary life. In order to follow in the footsteps of this person, he did not have the starry sky compass. He roamed in the vast universe and encountered countless dangers. He fought with the giant beasts of the starry sky, fought with the bugs of the starry sky, and even encountered the chaotic squall and the black hole of the universe. He lost his life in the boundless universe many times. However, he walked out of death time and time again and became stronger. Finally, he found the direction of the chaotic world and crossed over from the other side of the universe. He was Little Stone. He was Yi Fengtian. He was the only real disciple that Yi Xian had taught him all the methods back then. In the Temple of Destruction, Yi Xian sat in the void with his legs crossed. 3 small cauldrons floated in front of him, releasing a simple aura. However, Yi Xian frowned. These 3 hateful old guys are not so simple. Yi Xian murmured helplessly. Chapter 1678. Yi Xian had spent a total of 500 years trying to comprehend the 3 little cauldrons. He had even used his true body and the ancient bronze scripture. However, there was still no reaction from the 3 little cauldrons. In the end, Yi Xian discovered something that made him feel extremely helpless. The 3 little cauldrons had been branded by the 3 utmost powerful beings. There was no way he could take them for himself. No wonder the 3 utmost powerful beings were so generous as to lend the 3 cauldrons to Yi Xian for 1,000 years. Clearly they were prepared. There was no way they would really let Yi Xian try to comprehend the 3 little cauldrons. How unlucky! Yi Xian sighed. If he wanted to comprehend the little cauldrons, he would have to erase the brands on the cauldrons. It was not that Yi Xian was helpless. As long as his true body made a move, the reincarnation ultimacy should be able to erase it. However, if he did that, the 3 utmost powerful beings would arrive immediately. The result was obvious. The master of space and time would not be a problem. However, if the master of fate and chaos discovered his true body, they would definitely not let him off. Seems like now is not the time yet. Looking at the 3 little cauldrons before him, Yi Xian was really reluctant to let go. Perhaps one of the cauldrons contained a forbidden heaven law. However, he had no choice but to give it up for now. He did not have the ability to snatch the heaven-shattering cauldrons from the 3 utmost powerful beings. Even though he could not comprehend the 3 heaven-shattering cauldrons, Yi Xian did not want to give up just like that. As the saying went, if you do the first thing, I will do the same. A strange smile appeared on Yi Xian's face. Wang! A teleportation tunnel opened up between Yi Xian's clone and his true body. His true body once again appeared in the destruction shrine. Go! His true body made a hand seal. 3 faint reincarnation ultimacy brands were imprinted on the little cauldrons. After everything was done, Yi Xian checked them carefully. Only then did he nod his head in satisfaction. Not bad. It was true that Yi Xian had no way to seize the 3 small cauldrons for himself, but he had to do something to them. Naturally, they would be of great use in the future. However, what Yi Xian didn't know was that far away in the eastern domain, there was a person who was searching for him bitterly. That person was also inquiring about him everywhere. Very soon, the date of 1,000 years was up. The 3 small cauldrons transformed into rainbow-colored lights that broke through space and disappeared. Clearly, they had returned to the hands of the 3 supreme beings. These 3 old foxes, Yi Xian muttered hatefully as he looked at the 3 small cauldrons that had already disappeared. However, being able to see the 3 small cauldrons was enough to alleviate one of Yi Xian's worries. Yi Xian calculated for a moment. He had 6 small cauldrons in his possession. Adding the 3 small cauldrons in the hands of the 3 supreme experts, there were still 3 small cauldrons in the outside world, whose whereabouts were unknown. Chaos verse 12 periods. Suddenly, Yi Xian was startled, as if he had thought of something. A trace of bewilderment flashed across his eyes. 9 heaven-shattering cauldrons? 10th Aeon gathering. All of a sudden, a look of understanding flashed across Yi Xian's eyes, as if he had faintly guessed something. The Chaos verse had 12 eons, and the 12 heaven-shattering cauldrons corresponded to each eon. Right now, just based on what Yi Xian knew, there were already 9 small cauldrons that had appeared in the world. If a small cauldron would appear in every eon, then there should be another small cauldron appearing in the 10th eon. This just so happened to coincide with the profound mysteries of the Chaos verse 12 eons. If Yi Xian's inference wasn't wrong, then at this moment, there was definitely another small cauldron somewhere in the 10th eon. As for the remaining 2 small cauldrons, perhaps they would only appear in the 11th and 12th eon. When Yi Xian thought of this, he was horrified. If his inference was completely correct, then this meant that the entire Chaos verse was operating in a way that was completely incomprehensible to him. Every eon, a small cauldron would appear in the world. When the 12th eon arrived, all 12 small cauldrons would appear. Who was driving all of this? A huge question appeared in his mind, causing Yi Xian's mind to suddenly surge. Yi Xian pondered for a long time. He quickly stabilized his emotions and slowly exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. All of this was just his guess. Whether it was true or not was still unknown. Right now, his only mission was to become stronger, and not to be entangled with these illusory things. Master. A call came from outside the hall. Yi Xian finally woke up at this moment, and he calmed down again. Come in. Following Yi Xian's summon, 2 figures entered the hall together. They were Li Taichu and Jun Wushuang, who had followed Yi Xian. As a qualified leader, one had to be clear about rewards and punishments. Although the 2 of them had recognized him as their master, they were both heaven-defying monsters, and each of them had the qualifications to become a supreme expert. As the saying goes, a combination of kindness and punishment was a qualified leader. Yi Xian naturally had to give them some benefits. Buzz! Yi Xian flipped his hand, and a large number of Qingquan pouches flew out. He smiled at the 2 of them. These Qingquan pouches have a lot of divine treasures. It's enough for you 2 to break through to the complete immortal realm in the shortest time. Thank you, Master. Li Taichu and Jun Wushuang were excited. They bowed to Yi Xian, their eyes filled with excitement. The reason why they hadn't broken through to the complete immortal realm was that they didn't have enough cultivating resources. If they had a lot of cultivating resources, it would be easy for them to break through to the complete immortal realm. These Qingquan pouches belonged to the descendants of different great orthodoxies. They contained countless divine treasures, which were enough for them to break through to the complete immortal realm in the shortest time. To put it bluntly, as long as they could break through to the complete immortal realm in the 10th period, all they needed to do was wait for the next period. Once the 11th period began, all the complete immortal realm experts would break through to the half-step supreme expert realm. Then, they would fight for the supreme expert position in the 11th period. There was an unwritten rule in the chaotic universe. It was also the iron law of the chaotic universe. Anyone who had broken through to the half-step supreme expert realm in the previous period wasn't qualified to fuse with the chaotic heaven heart. Thus, they would suppress their cultivation base in the previous period. They would never allow themselves to break through to the half-step supreme expert realm. Jiang Fuxing, who had died in Yi Xian's hands, had done the same. Otherwise, if he had broken through to the half-step supreme expert realm, he wouldn't have died in Yi Xian's hands. Unfortunately, when Jiang Fuxing realized it, he didn't have a chance anymore. In the end, his body and soul were destroyed. Since there's nothing to do now, you two should go into seclusion to break through. Soon, we'll have something to do, said Yi Xian solemnly. Yes, master. Li Taichu and Jun Wushuang bowed and answered. Then, they divided the Qingquan pouches and went into seclusion to break through to the complete immortal realm. After the two left, Yi Xian remained silent. Although he was now a clone, and no one should be able to see any flaws, he still felt a sense of urgency in his heart. He absolutely couldn't maintain this state for a long time. He had been targeted by the Undying Heaven Lord and the Sky-Devouring Devil Lord. Moreover, he had killed the descendant of chaotic destiny. It was impossible for him to not attract attention. Chapter 1679. However, Yi Xian didn't care. Unless these supreme experts had a way to know that he was Yi Xian, they couldn't do anything to him with the destruction temple behind him. After all, the Lord of Destruction wanted to protect him. This was also the reason why Yi Xian was able to calm down at this moment. Right now, my main body is only one step away from opening the 9 heavenly gates. I should also speed up my cultivation, Yi Xian whispered. On this day, Yi Xian announced that he would go into seclusion, and the entire temple was completely sealed. The Lord of Destruction was also happy to see Yi Xian cultivate well, so he naturally agreed. He even passed down a decree that without his permission, no one was allowed to disturb Yi Xian's cultivation. Inside the temple, rumble, the teleportation channel opened. Yi Xian flipped his hand and 2 green gourds appeared. He then threw the 2 gourds into the channel. On the other side, his main body suddenly opened his eyes, and black fog covered his body. The terrifying Calamity Transcender technique and the heaven-devouring demonic art were activated. The 2 green gourds spun upside down, directly spewing out a huge amount of blood energy for his main body to absorb. Rumble. The 8 heavenly gates rumbled and rotated. His main body crazily devoured the blood energy in the 2 gourds, and his aura increased at a terrifying rate. Of the 2 green gourds, one was filled with the cultivation of the holy sons and holy daughters, while the other was filled with the cultivation of Jiang Fuxing and Xia Baitu. This was definitely a great supplement. Yi Xian was even more confident that he could open the 9th heavenly gate. According to Yi Xian's calculations, as long as his main body opened the 9th heavenly gate, he wouldn't dare to say that he would be comparable to a half-step supreme expert, but he would be invincible. If he could go one step further and open the 10th heavenly gate, he was sure that he would be able to sweep through half-step supreme experts. Below the eternal strongest, he would be an invincible existence. The 10th heavenly gate. Yi Xian didn't know if anyone had opened it before, but the 9 heavenly gates were the limit of others. He also didn't know if opening the 10th heavenly gate would bring about a qualitative transformation. Yi Xian was vaguely hopeful. After opening the 10th gate of heaven, one could even kill a half-step paragon. He wondered how big the gap between him and a paragon of eternity would be. Of course, Yi Xian didn't think that he would be able to go toe-to-toe with the strongest of all time, just by opening 10 heavenly gates. This was clearly a little unrealistic. But what about the 11th heavenly gate? What about the 12th heavenly gate? Every time he thought of this, Yi Xian felt as if he had been injected with chicken blood. This also made him speed up the cultivation of his main body. Moreover, Yi Xian already had a plan for opening the 10th gate of heaven. According to his deduction, it shouldn't be a big problem. After all, he had been preparing for this move for a long time. He wanted to break the limit of the 9 gates and enter the 10th gate. Rumble. Yi Xian's cultivation base was increasing. Under the nourishment of the massive amount of blood energy, the 9th divine gate was gradually condensing. Yi Xian was also completely immersed in his own cultivation. On the other side, in the Undying Heaven Palace, the Undying Heaven Lord sat cross-legged in the void. A heavenly projection appeared in front of him, and on the other side was the Master of Destiny. He said that he's Yi Xian. Do you have any evidence? The Master of Destiny asked doubtfully. No evidence, the Undying Heaven Lord said in a deep voice. But don't you think it's strange? His methods are extremely similar to Yi Xian's. Moreover, everyone else died, but the disciple of the extreme love master came out alive. That little girl's cultivation base isn't worth mentioning in the 100 seedlings battlefield. Even those stronger than her didn't make it out alive. Why did Yi Xiaoyu let her go? Moreover, do you remember that when Yi Xiaoyu killed the heaven-devouring demonic son, he absorbed all of his blood energy into his gourd? What was he trying to do? Devour. It must be devouring. Don't forget that he has a devouring technique. Moreover, it's not just the heaven-devouring demonic son. He would absorb the blood energy of anyone he killed into his gourd. Don't you think it's strange? The undying Heaven Lord said a lot, and every piece of evidence pointed to Yi Xian. Moreover, I've never heard of a person called Yi Xiaoyu in the Chaos verse. It's as if he appeared out of thin air. Moreover, he cultivates the boundless secular art of the human Tao Lord. This means that he has a deep relationship with the human Tao Lord. This evidence is enough to prove that there's a high chance that he's Yi Xian. At this point, the undying Heaven Lord's eyes flickered with terrifying killing intent. Undying, you're overthinking things. On the other side, the Master of Destiny said indifferently, what you said is merely your conjecture. There's no substantial evidence at all. Also, don't forget that your disciple also walked out safely. If he really is Yi Xian, with the enmity between you and him, how could he let your disciple go? The Lord of Destiny said, Destiny, you don't understand Yi Xian's methods at all. Yi Xian has always been a sinister and cunning person. He must have other plans for not killing my disciple. The undying Heaven Lord retorted. Impossible. He can't be Yi Xian. Back then, you and I personally destroyed him in body and soul. There's no way he could have survived. The Master of Destiny said with certainty. It wasn't that the Master of Destiny was confident, but that Yi Xian had been killed back then. 2 Divine Realm Reflections. Yi Xian's body and soul were destroyed, and 2 of the strongest experts of all time had personally taken action. If he could survive even this, it would be a fantasy. Undying, your suspicion is too strong. You and I have both seen this person with our supreme magic eyes, and there are even 3 divine realms. Even if he had a forbidden escape technique, it would be useless at that time. He couldn't possibly be Yi Xian. The Master of Destiny said solemnly. After all, he did have his suspicions back then. However, with the illumination of the 3 gods and his pair of Dharma eyes, he could see that Yi Xian wasn't an illusion. He was an independent individual. It's better to kill the wrong person than to let him go. Don't you understand this principle? The undying Heaven Lord said solemnly. In truth, the undying Heaven Lord naturally understood everything the Master of Destiny said. However, he didn't dare to confirm his conjecture. Logically speaking, it was impossible for the other party to be Yi Xian. However, the undying Heaven Lord couldn't help but feel uneasy. The source of this uneasiness was this person called Yi Xiaoyu. Therefore, regardless of whether Yi Xian was Yi Xiaoyu or not, the undying Heaven Lord still wanted to take precautions. This was the safest method. It was better to kill the wrong person than to let him go. This was the undying Heaven Lord's attitude. The so-called evidence wasn't important. What was important was that the undying Heaven Lord felt that Yi Xiaoyu was a threat, because he was too similar to Yi Xian. Undying, since you insist on killing him, I have nothing to say. However, I won't participate in this matter. After all, Yi Xiaoyu is a disciple of destruction. If you want to kill him, you can do it yourself. After saying that, the Master of Destiny disappeared. Only the undying Heaven Lord had a gloomy expression. No one knew what he was thinking. Chapter 1680. Undying Heaven Palace. How dare you? The undying Heaven Lord roared, causing the entire palace to rumble. A pair of sinister eyes landed on a corner of the palace. Master. The undying goddess trembled as she walked out, and hurriedly knelt at the feet of the undying Heaven Lord. Her small face was extremely pale. You heard everything just now? The undying Heaven Lord stared at her disciple, as a sinister look flashed past her eyes. Master, disciple didn't hear anything. The undying goddess hurriedly denied. In the future, without my permission, You are not allowed to enter. Leave. The undying Heaven Lord coldly said. Yes, master. The undying goddess hurriedly kowtowed and left the palace in a hurry. However, she didn't notice that the undying Heaven Lord was looking at her with a cold gaze. Annihilation Devil Palace. Open for me. Sealing the heaven and earth, isolating the area. Yi Xian was roaring malevolently. He sat side by side with his main body. His main body was emitting an extremely terrifying aura, as the ninth heavenly gate was gradually forming. Bang bang bang. The ninth heavenly gate was rumbling and shaking with a mysterious power. This also caused the main body's aura to become even more terrifying. Boom. Finally, following a loud explosion, the main body's ninth heavenly gate was completely opened. The 9 heavenly gates rotated terrifyingly, pouring down the mysteries of reincarnation that revolved around the main body. Great! Yi Xian suddenly opened his eyes and let out an excited roar. His consciousness left the clone and returned to his main body. Boom! Yi Xian regained control of his main body and stood up abruptly. Terrifying heaven burial reincarnation revolved around his body. A terrifying power that caused Yi Xian to tremble violently surged within his body. Not long ago, Yi Xian had never felt such a powerful force before. He silently sensed his body and clenched his fists. When his 5 fingers closed, it felt as though the entire world was about to explode from his grasp. Powerful. Terrifyingly powerful. So powerful that it caused Yi Xian to tremble. Is this the power of the 9 great heavenly gates? Yi Xian slowly raised his hands. He felt his cultivation base and strength in a daze, and a touch of intoxication rose from the bottom of his eyes. Rumble. All of a sudden, Yi Xian made his move. Eternal Reincarnation Fist. Bang bang bang. Eternal Eternity, Samsara Annihilation. The 9 stances of the Eternal Reincarnation Fist were displayed one by one in Yi Xian's hands. He did not unleash any power, but merely brandished the profoundness within it. However, with each punch that was thrown out, the space in this area would shatter terrifyingly. Finally, Yi Xian stood still and slowly exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. All 9 forms of the Eternal Reincarnation Fist stopped. What terrifying power! Yi Xian growled in excitement. Yi Xian was sure that he could kill a peak Immortal Realm expert with just one punch. The other wouldn't even have a chance to resist. Invincible Immortal Realm. These 4 simple words described Yi Xian's current state. He was definitely invincible in the Immortal Realm. Even if he faced a half-step to the ultimate expert, Yi Xian had the confidence to fight. After a long time, Yi Xian forced himself to calm down. He returned to his doppelganger, and his original body returned to the underground lava world through the teleportation channel to cultivate again. He had to admit that the 100 Seedlings battlefield this time had allowed his original body's cultivation base to improve by leaps and bounds. If not for the opportunity in the 100 Seedlings battlefield, his original body would have to wait a long time to open the 9 great heavenly gates. Bear with it for a while longer, and I will be able to come out with my head held high. Yi Xian clenched his fists tightly, and his eyes were terrifyingly deep. According to Yi Xian's calculations, his original body had just opened the 9th heavenly gate, and he was already so powerful that it was terrifying. He was invincible in the Immortal Realm. Even if he fought a half-step to the ultimate expert, he would be invincible. If he opened the 10th heavenly gate, perhaps he wouldn't have to worry about the killing intent of the ultimate experts. He wouldn't have to hide his identity and hide anymore. Therefore, Yi Xian had to bear with it for a while longer. This period of time was extremely important to him. This was because this was the process of entering the 10th heavenly gate. As long as he opened the 10th heavenly gate, he would be able to restore his original body and truly walk the chaotic universe. At that time, he might still not be a match for an ultimate expert, but it would be impossible for an ultimate expert to kill him. He would also be able to challenge an ultimate expert. Moreover, this period of time wouldn't be long. In order to open the 10th heavenly gate, Yi Xian had been preparing for a long time. He was also very confident that he could open the 10th heavenly gate. It was just that the time wasn't right yet. He had to wait until the 9 great heavenly gates of his original body stabilized before he could truly begin to plan for the 10th heavenly gate. All of a sudden, just as Yi Xian was deep in thought, a transmission jade letter suddenly appeared in his hand. This also caused Yi Xian's thoughts to turn. It's her. Yi Xian frowned. This transmission jade letter was something he had left behind for the undying goddess. It was to inform him of the undying goddess's movements. Yi Xian's consciousness sank into the jade letter. It took him a few dozen breaths before he finished reading the contents of the jade letter. You want to kill me? Yi Xian muttered coldly. He had already learned of the undying goddess's suspicions towards him from the jade letter. He also knew of her determination to kill him. Can you kill me? Yi Xian sneered. Time passed in the blink of an eye. Ever since the end of the 100 Seedlings battlefield, the reputation of the Destruction Devil Hall had been greatly boosted. The name of the Destruction God's son, Yi Xiaoyu, had also resounded throughout the central region. No one was more pleased than the Lord of Destruction. Not only did the Destruction Demon Hall have a shocking genius like Yi Xian, but there were also 2 heaven-defying monsters who had become members of the Destruction Demon Hall. These 2 heaven-defying monsters were recruited by Yi Xian from the 100 Seedlings battlefield. Naturally, they also joined the Destruction Demon Hall. Right now, the Lord of Destruction was flushed with success. The more he looked at Yi Xian, the more he liked Yi Xian. He had practically handed over all the authority of the Destruction Demon Hall to Yi Xian. He was more than happy to leave everything to him. It was no wonder that the Lord of Destruction valued Yi Xian so much. Yi Xian's cultivation was already at the great circle of the immortal realm. Moreover, Li Taichu and Jun Wushuang had also reached the great circle of the immortal realm. The 3 of them were all heaven-defying monsters. Looking at these supreme orthodoxies, which one of them could compare to his Destruction Demon Hall? Destruction Demon Hall. Xiaoyu, you're out of seclusion? As Yi Xian stepped into the hall, the Lord of Destruction was full of smiles. Thank you for your nurturing, Master. Otherwise, Xiaoyu wouldn't have been able to reach the great circle of the immortal realm so quickly. Yi Xian flattered. Ha ha ha. The Lord of Destruction enjoyed it very much. He laughed out loud and said, This is all because of your talent. However, you have indeed earned me a lot of face in the 100 Seedlings battlefield. Although you have killed so many successors of great sects, I will naturally clean up the mess for you. Thank you, Master. Yi Xian bowed and pretended to be deep in thought. Seeing that Yi Xian was hesitating, as if he had something difficult to say, the Lord of Destruction said, Xiaoyu, if you have something to say, just say it. Chapter 1681. Master, I've received news that someone wants to kill me. Yi Xian feigned bitterness. Who dares to have such guts? Who dares to have designs on you? The Lord of Destruction was enraged. Yi Xian was now his treasure. If anyone dared to touch a hair on Yi Xian's head, the Lord of Destruction would definitely turn them into ashes. The Undying Heaven Lord, Yi Xian said. The Lord of Destruction's expression changed slightly when he heard Yi Xian's words. It's him. What a good undying old thief. Is he jealous that I nurtured a good disciple? The Lord of Destruction's expression was icy cold. He had long realized that the Undying Heaven Lord wanted to kill Yi Xian, so he believed Yi Xian's words. Although my cultivation has reached perfection, if the Undying Heaven Lord wants to kill me, I won't be able to fight back, Yi Xian said. Xiaoyu, don't worry. If he really dares to touch you, I'll make him pay the price, the Lord of Destruction said solemnly. Yi Xian frowned slightly when he saw the Lord of Destruction's gloomy expression. He could tell that the Lord of Destruction was extremely wary of the Undying Heaven Lord. This was not the outcome he wanted. Moreover, Yi Xian definitely wasn't someone who would just sit there and wait for death. Since the Undying Heaven Lord already suspected him, he would rather kill the wrong person than let him go. In that case, he would definitely attack the Undying Heaven Lord first. As the saying went, the one who strikes first gains the upper hand, and the one who strikes later suffers. Yi Xian understood this principle. So, Yi Xian's plan was simple. He wanted to provoke a battle between the 2 supreme experts. This would buy him a lot of time. However, the Lord of Destruction was clearly wary of the undying old thief. It was unrealistic for him to take the initiative to attack. In fact, the Lord of Destruction was indeed weaker than the undying Heaven Lord. If they really fought, he would not be a match for the undying Heaven Lord. Master, there's actually one thing that I haven't told you. I was afraid that Master would be furious. Yi Xian's eyes turned as he spoke. What is it? The Lord of Destruction asked. Sigh. Yi Xian pretended to sigh and said, Actually, that day in the 100 Seedlings battlefield, the Undying Heaven Lord secretly invited me to join the Undying Heaven Palace, and even promised to take me in as his personal disciple. What? The Lord of Destruction turned pale with fright, and his expression instantly turned ugly. What else did he say? The Lord of Destruction asked coldly. Your disciple doesn't dare to say. Yi Xian hurriedly pretended to be terrified. This caused the Lord of Destruction's expression to darken. Xiaoyu, you and I have a deep relationship as master and disciple. There's nothing that can't be said. He said that you're too mediocre among the strongest experts. You're not his match at all. Taking you as my master is my biggest mistake. If I'm willing to change my sect and join the Immortal Heaven Palace. Boom! Before Yi Xian could finish his words, the Destruction Sovereign flew into a rage. Terrifying destructive energy gushed forth, causing the entire Destruction Devil Hall to tremble, as though it would collapse at any moment. You undying old thief, you've gone too far. The Lord of Destruction roared furiously. He looked at Yi Xian again and asked, What else did he say to you? Looking at the Lord of Destruction's furious expression, Yi Xian sneered in his heart. Then, he continued to add fuel to the fire. He also said, Although we're both strongest experts, he can kill you as easily as killing a pig or a dog. Your disciple naturally retorted angrily, and even rejected his invitation. You've severely damaged his reputation. This is also the reason why he secretly wants to kill your disciple. Undying old thief, how dare you humiliate me like this? I'll definitely not rest until you're dead. The Lord of Destruction roared furiously. He was extremely furious. The strongest experts of all time cared about their reputation the most. Although the Lord of Destruction was wary of the Immortal Heaven Lord, if he did not do anything after being humiliated like this, wouldn't that mean that he was afraid of the Immortal Heaven Lord? How could he maintain his image of being an invincible and mighty expert in Yi Xian's heart? Of course, this so-called invincible and mighty image was only what the Lord of Destruction believed himself to be. Yi Xian was just using him from the start. Of course, Yi Xian's words were completely untrue. They were all lies that he had fabricated. His goal was to incite a battle between the two strongest experts. Actually, this was the lowest level of sowing discord. If it were anyone else who said this to the Lord of Destruction, the Lord of Destruction would have already slapped them to death. He would not believe such ridiculous words at all. However, these words were different when they came from Yi Xian's mouth. The Lord of Destruction believed them even more. After all, Yi Xian's cultivation and aptitude were obvious. Moreover, the Immortal Heaven Lord had always been targeting Yi Xian. This also proved Yi Xian's words. Moreover, the Lord of Destruction would never have thought that this good disciple of his would actually incite a battle between him and the Immortal Heaven Lord. Master, that immortal old thief is simply too much. He doesn't take you seriously at all. If you can kill that old thief, your reputation will definitely soar among the strongest experts. Yi Xian continued to tempt the Lord of Destruction. Kill him? The Lord of Destruction's breath was stifled. Then, he shook his head helplessly and bitterly. He looked at Yi Xian and said, How can the Immortal Heaven Lord be killed so easily? Almost all of the strongest experts have an immortal body. Nothing is absolute. Didn't the Supreme Demon and Human Tao fall as well? Actually, as long as Master wants to, you might really be able to kill him. Yi Xian said. You have a way. The Lord of Destruction raised his eyebrows. He was clearly tempted. Master, please listen to me in detail. On this day, Yi Xian and the Lord of Destruction plotted for a long time. It was not until 7 days later that Yi Xian walked out of the destruction demonic palace. There was a sinister smile on his face. On the other side, in the eastern region of the 5 regions of chaos, the vast mountain range rose and fell continuously. 3 ancient trees rose from the ground, and a rapidly flowing river surged violently. On both sides of the river, green mountains, clear waters, and fragrant grass were everywhere. Yi Fengtian sat cross-legged by the river. He breathed in and out divine light. There was also a mysterious radiance circulating around his body. Yi Fengtian. He had inherited Yi Xian's entire legacy. Although he had only opened one gate of heaven, his combat strength was unimaginably terrifying. Dong! Suddenly, in the turbulent river, a strange object was faintly discernible. With a wave, the strange object suddenly fell in front of Yi Fengtian and made a strange sound. It was also this strange sound that awakened Yi Fengtian from his cultivation. He slowly opened his eyes and casually picked up the strange object that had fallen in front of him. It was a small cauldron. It was simple and unadorned, as if it was made of ordinary stone. There was nothing special about it. Yi Fengtian frowned. He casually threw the small cauldron in his hand and prepared to continue his cultivation. However, in the next moment, Yi Fengtian was stunned. This was because the small cauldron had crashed into the rocks by the river and was not damaged at all. Yi Fengtian exclaimed. He did not expect the small cauldron to be so sturdy. This made him reach out with his hand, and the small cauldron was sucked back into his hand. Boom! Yi Fengtian suddenly exerted force, wanting to test how sturdy the small cauldron was. However, something happened that shocked him. He could not crush the small cauldron in his hand. Moreover, as he continued to exert force, the small cauldron in his hand was still intact. What is this? Yi Fengtian whispered in surprise. Chapter 1682. The river was surging, and the wind was blowing. Yi Fengtian fiddled with the cauldron, but he couldn't find anything out of the ordinary. Whether he used his cultivation or refined it with his fire, the small cauldron didn't change at all. It was hard to imagine how sturdy it was. What kind of treasure is this? Yi Fengtian whispered. Unfortunately, the small cauldron was simple and unadorned. Aside from its sturdiness, there was nothing mysterious about it. Yi Fengtian gave up on exploring it. However, Yi Fengtian wouldn't abandon such a treasure. He put it away and got ready to continue his journey. Hey, I finally found you. All of a sudden, a girl in red suddenly appeared in front of Yi Fengtian. She had a proud smile on her face. You again? Yi Fengtian was startled and frowned. He didn't expect this girl to be so difficult to deal with. She had tracked him all the way here. The girl in red was called Wan Hongling. Her cultivation level wasn't high, only in the Tao comprehending realm. But she was the daughter of the Black Kshetra sect's chief. The Black Kshetra sect was a big sect in the eastern lands. As the chief's daughter, Wan Hongling was like a goddess. Nobody dared to offend her. Yi Fengtian had just arrived in the eastern lands and made some enemies. When he was fighting with those enemies, Wan Hongling happened to pass by. That was how she met Yi Fengtian. It was said that a girl would fall in love for the first time. Even though Wan Hongling had been cultivating for a long time, she was still a girl. Although Yi Fengtian was not handsome, he had a manly aura. That made him very curious about Yi Fengtian. He wanted to know more about Yi Fengtian. When a woman was curious about a man, it was the beginning of love. Wan Hongling didn't know that. However, Yi Fengtian wasn't interested in Wan Hongling at all. He only wanted to find his master. He didn't want to pay attention to such an unruly girl. Hey, are you unhappy to see me? Looking at Yi Fengtian's frown, Wan Hongling pouted and puffed up her cheeks angrily. I told you, we don't know each other, and I don't want to have anything to do with you. Why do you have to follow me? Yi Fengtian said coldly. Tisk. Wan Hongling said coquettishly. The road leads to the sky, and we walk on different sides. Why should I follow you? Even if I follow you, it proves that I think highly of you. You should feel honored. I don't need you to think highly of me. Please leave, Yi Fengtian said with a frown. Ha ha ha, I won't leave. Come and kill me. Wan Hongling's bare feet were swaying back and forth on the branch. She giggled as she teased Yi Fengtian. If you don't leave, I'll leave. Yi Fengtian stood up and left. He turned into a beam of light and disappeared. Wan Hongling was worried. Hey, you bastard, wait for me. Chi. Wan Hongling stood on a cloud and chased after Yi Fengtian. She was afraid that Yi Fengtian would be embarrassed by her. Hey, aren't you looking for your master? What's his name? Maybe I know him. The sky was boundless and the clouds were vast. Yi Fengtian flew through the sky. Wan Hongling pouted and followed behind him. Buzz! Yi Fengtian stopped. He turned around and looked at Wan Hongling. For the first time he looked serious. My master is Yi Xian. Do you know him? Yi Fengtian asked. Yi Xian? Wan Hongling blinked and shook her head. I've never heard of a great cultivator called Yi Xian in the East region. Which sect does your master belong to? Or is he an elder of some force? Wan Hongling asked. I don't know. Yi Fengtian shook his head helplessly. I only know his name. I don't know anything else. I was young back then. I only spent a few days with him. My master's name is the only thing I know about him. Hey, are you kidding me? You've only spent a few days with him, and you're already calling him your master? And you're looking for him so hard. Is there something wrong with your head? Aren't you afraid that he's a liar? Wan Hongling mocked. Shut up. I won't allow you to slander him. Boom. Yi Fengtian was furious. His body emitted a terrifying energy, because Yi Xian was the closest person to him. If it weren't for Yi Xian, he would have died of old age in the mortal world. He wouldn't have been able to reach his current level of cultivation. Okay. Don't be angry. I was just joking with you. Wan Hongling's expression changed. She didn't expect Yi Fengtian to be angry. His master was his reverse scale. He couldn't touch it easily. Just this once. Don't do it again. If you slander my master again, don't blame me for being merciless, Yi Fengtian said coldly. Okay, don't be angry. I know I'm wrong. Wan Hongling pouted and apologized to Yi Fengtian. Looking at Yi Fengtian's slightly relaxed face, Wan Hongling frowned and said, But it's really difficult to find your master. There are hundreds of millions of creatures in the eastern region alone. And this doesn't include the other 4 regions. Besides, there are countless people named Yi Xian. Where are you going to find him? My master is definitely not a nobody. If I can't find him in the eastern region, I'll go to the other 4 regions. I'll find him one day, Yi Fengtian said firmly. What a stubborn blockhead. Wan Hongling muttered softly. Although I don't know who your master is, maybe my father does. He is the leader of the Black Kshatriya sect. If he is willing to help you, you can definitely find your master quickly, Wan Hongling said. What? Yi Fengtian was slightly stunned. He wasn't a newbie who had just entered the chaotic world. He had experienced many dangers along the way. He naturally knew that the leader of the Black Kshatriya sect was an extremely powerful figure. He was also the leader of a large sect in the eastern region. If he helped, the chances of finding his master would be much higher. Maybe the leader of the Black Kshatriya sect knew his master? Oh, when will you find him if you keep looking for him? Come back to the Black Kshatriya sect with me. My father will definitely help you find him, Wan Hongling said, and pulled Yi Fengtian away. She didn't mean to avoid suspicion at all. Instead, she held on to Yi Fengtian proudly. Yi Fengtian could only let Wan Hongling pull him. In fact, he was also a little tempted. After all, it was indeed very difficult to find his master on his own. On the other side, in the Grand Central region, a peerless killing formation covered the sky and quietly hid in the sky. When Yi Xian finished setting up this killing formation, he nodded with satisfaction. However, he didn't know that the disciple he had taken in the untainted world was now desperately searching for him in the Grand Central region. He had even obtained a heaven-breaking cauldron. Chapter 1683. Undying Old Thief. If you really dare to come, even if I can't kill you, I'll definitely peel off a layer of your skin. Yi Xian spoke in a low voice. Master, everything is ready. We're just waiting for that undying old thief to enter the trap. Li Taichu and Jun Wushuang arrived in an instant. Clearly, this supreme killing array was personally set up by the 3 of them. All right. Yi Xian nodded slowly. Right now, The three of them were at the perfect circle of the undying realm. Moreover, Li Taichu and Jun Wushuang were stronger than his clone. Li Taichu was already able to slash out the fifth sword of the six annihilations, and Jun Wushuang's extreme purple heavenly energy had reached a higher level. With Yi Xian's clone here, as well as the Lord of Destruction and the peerless killing formation in front of him, Yi Xian dared to guarantee that nothing would go wrong. On the other side, Undying Heaven Palace. The Destruction Overlord invited me as a guest? As the Undying Goddess handed over an invitation card, the Undying God Lord casually flipped through it before tossing it aside. All right, the Undying Heaven Lord sneered. He had already planned to personally make a trip to the Destruction Devil Hall and find an opportunity to kill Yi Xiaoyu. Now this was a good opportunity. It would save him the trouble of finding an excuse to head to the Destruction Devil Hall. On this day, the Undying Heaven Lord strode out of the orthodoxy and headed straight for the Destruction Devil Hall. A formless smoke rose silently. Destruction Devil Hall. The Destruction Overlord stood proudly in the sky. Destructive energy revolved around his body as an extremely terrifying might bloomed. On the left and right of the Destruction Overlord were Yi Xian, Li Taichu, and Jun Wushuang. However, the three of them were merely supporting characters, quietly standing beside the Destruction Overlord. Undying, since you're here, why don't you show yourself? All of a sudden, the Destruction Overlord raised his head and stared at the sky. As the sound of his voice faded, the entire area dimmed. The Undying Heaven Lord walked out from the sky as his sinister gaze landed on Yi Xian. Destruction. I don't want to waste time talking nonsense. I want to take this Yi Xiaoyu away. If you give him to me, we can still be friends. If you don't want to, I'll have no choice but to do it by force, said the Undying Heaven Lord. At the level of the strongest of all time, any nonsense was superfluous. They just had to get straight to the point. The rest would depend on their cultivation. Undying old thief, I've been tolerating you all this while. It's not that I'm afraid of you. I just didn't want to become a laughing stock in the battle between the strongest. I didn't expect you to be such a bully. Not only do you have designs on my disciple, you don't even put me in your eyes. Since you've come here today, don't even think about leaving. Rumble. The god of destruction's body exploded with the Tongtian's supreme power. The terrifying destructive lightning had already wreaked havoc in the heavens. Destruction, you dare to go against me for an ant? The Undying Heaven Lord sneered. The Undying Heaven Blade appeared with a flip of his hand. The terrifying power of nirvanic destruction surrounded his body. Although he didn't reveal any of his power, his aura alone was enough to suppress the god of destruction. Undying old thief, you want to kill me? I'm afraid you won't be able to do it today. Yi Xian slowly walked out. Li Taichu and Jun Wushuang followed behind him. The three of them were at the great circle of the immortal realm. Moreover, Li Taichu and Jun Wushuang had their own Daoan techniques. They were absolutely terrifying. Unfortunately, the Undying Heaven Lord was still sneering in the face of the four's attacks. It was as if he didn't put Yi Xian and the others in his eyes at all. I don't care if you're Yi Xian or Yi Xiaoyu. Today, you'll die without a doubt, said the Undying Heaven Lord coldly. We don't know who's going to kill who yet. Yi Xian narrowed his eyes. He struck out with a technique. A peerless killing formation appeared and instantly enveloped the Undying Heaven Lord. Undying, today, I'm going to take your life. The Destruction Lord spoke in a cruel tone. As the sound of his voice faded, over 100 Immortal Realm experts rushed over from all directions. All of them were elites from the Annihilation Devil Hall. Peerless killing formation. 3 great circle of the Immortal Realm experts. One of them was an ancient paragon. In addition to all the Immortal Realm experts from the Annihilation Devil Hall. With such a lineup, even the Undying Heaven Lord's expression changed slightly. If it wasn't for the Destruction Lord, he wouldn't even put these people in his eyes. Ants were ants after all. He could stomp them to death with a single step. However, the existence of the Destruction Lord in addition to such a lineup did indeed give the Undying Heaven Lord immense pressure. Not to mention killing Yi Xian. Even he would have to flee pathetically today. However, the Undying Heaven Lord remained calm. Even though he was surrounded, he didn't show any fear. Instead, he stared at Yi Xian with a solemn expression. Yi Xiaoyu, I'll call you that for now. Do you think that I wouldn't know that you've bewitched my disciple, and she secretly sent you a message? Buzz. Suddenly, the undying heaven lord flipped his hand. The undying goddess silently appeared before him. At this moment, her face was pale and her entire body was trembling in fear. Huh. Yi Xian's expression changed slightly. A sense of danger suddenly assaulted his mind. Something's not right. Yi Xian knew that things weren't good. It wasn't that the undying heaven lord had exposed his trick and shocked Yi Xian. The real reason that made Yi Xian's heart tremble was that the undying heaven lord actually dared to appear despite knowing that he had bewitched the undying goddess. This meant that the undying heaven lord was prepared. Had he been tricked? In the next moment, Yi Xian suddenly came to a realization. There weren't so many fools in this world, let alone someone like the undying heaven lord. The undying heaven lord had always suspected that Yi Xian was Yi Xian. Moreover, the undying heaven lord knew that Yi Xian was extremely cunning and had countless sinister tricks up his sleeves. After all, he had suffered a great loss at the hands of Yi Xian. According to the undying heaven lord's understanding of Yi Xian, the other party must have prepared many sinister tricks to deal with him. As expected, the undying heaven lord's guess was right. Fortunately, he was prepared and was confident that he had Yi Xian under control. As the saying goes, the person who understands you the most is not necessarily your closest kin, but it is definitely the person who hates you the most. Yi Xian understood the undying heaven lord. In other words, the undying heaven lord also understood Yi Xian very well. Annihilation, you've been tricked. He isn't Yi Xian at all. He's just using you. The undying heaven lord coldly berated. In the past, the undying heaven lord still had his doubts. But after arriving at the Annihilation Devil Hall and discovering the tricks Yi Xian had prepared, he was certain that this so-called Yi Xian was definitely Yi Xian. There was no mistake about it, because the two of them were equally sinister and cunning. Even if his powerful eyes couldn't see through Yi Xian, he believed in his own judgment. Master, he's slandering me. Yi Xian would never admit it even if he was beaten to death. If he really admitted it, the Annihilation Lord would immediately stand on the Undying Heaven Lord's side. Undying, there's no need for you to sow discord. Do you think this Lord will believe you? The Annihilation Lord coldly spoke. You idiot! The Undying Heaven Lord roared. Cut the crap and prepare to die. Rumble! The Supreme Grand Array gushed forth with boundless baleful chi. The Annihilation Lord took the initiative to attack. His destructive strike shattered the dome of heaven as he rushed towards the Undying Heaven Lord. Chapter 1684. At the same time, 6 annihilations. Li Taichu had been preparing for a long time. He slashed out the 5th sword at the Undying Heaven Master. Extreme purple heavenly energy. Jun Wushuang did not want to be left behind. He also slashed out a powerful technique. This purple light tore the void apart. It was also unimaginably terrifying. Both of them had the potential to become the strongest. Moreover, both of them had created their own techniques and daos. Although they might not be able to harm the Undying Heaven Master, they were still able to cause him a lot of trouble. Boom! Yi Xian also unleashed the karma energy and destruction energy. His immortal full-circle cultivation base was fully unleashed. However, he did not use his full strength. After this attack, he quietly retreated. He felt that the Undying Heaven Master was not as simple as he seemed. Kill. Hundreds of Immortal Realm experts unleashed their immortal great techniques at the Undying Heaven Master, causing him to be surrounded. Boom! The Undying Heaven Master slashed out with his saber, destroying all of their attacks. He then turned around and slashed out with his saber, heading straight for the Destruction Lord. Bang! Heaven and earth shook as the firmament shattered. The attack of the two strongest was too terrifying. Just the aftershock of the attack was enough to cause Yi Xian and the others to retreat. They could not participate in the battle between the strongest. They could only unleash one terrifying technique after another from the periphery to affect the Undying Heaven Master's battle. Undying old thief, take my fist! Boom! It was the same destruction demonic fist. However, this fist was unleashed by the destruction demonic lord. It was terrifying to the extreme. It had fully displayed the destruction profound. Clang! The undying heaven master slashed out with his saber, blocking the fist of the destruction lord. However, the supreme killing array above him was still pouring out endless destructive lightning. This caused the undying heaven master to be at a disadvantage. The undying heaven master retreated 10,000 miles. He did not attack again, because he was not here to fight the destruction lord. His only goal was to kill Yi Xian. However, Yi Xian was hiding behind everyone at this moment. Unless the undying heaven master could break through the destruction lord, there was no way he could kill Yi Xian. Devouring heaven, what are you waiting for? Suddenly, the undying heaven lord raised his head and roared. However, it was also this roar that caused Yi Xian's expression to change drastically. He finally knew where his uneasiness came from. It turned out that the undying heaven lord had actually found the heaven-devouring devil master. No wonder this undying old bastard was so fearless. Rumble! Devouring the heavens and swallowing the earth, demonic light filled the sky. A gloomy figure walked over from the horizon. The terrifying heaven-devouring devil mist was steaming violently. Who else could it be but the heaven-devouring devil master? Previously, I had some suspicions as to why you would absorb the blood and chi of the dead into the gourd during the 100 Seedlings battlefield. Now it seems that the truth will be revealed. The heaven-devouring demon lord indifferently looked at Yi Xian, as a cruel smile appeared on his face. Oh no! Yi Xian's heart skipped a beat as a great sense of danger assaulted him, causing him to faintly retreat. Two supreme experts, peerless killing intent. Until this moment, Yi Xian was still calm and composed. Although he did not expect the heaven-devouring devil master to appear, nor did he expect the undying old bastard to invite the heaven-devouring devil master, he was still prepared. Yi Xian had never underestimated the undying heaven lord, because he was not the only smart person in this world. The others were not dumb either. Since the undying heaven lord was able to become the supreme expert of all time, he naturally could not be a fool. Whether you are Yi Xian or Yi Xiaoyu, your only ending today is death. The undying heaven lord strolled over in the sky. The heaven-devouring devil master was also walking towards Yi Xian. The two supreme experts caused all living beings to be horrified. At this moment, Yi Xian was retreating while Li Taichu and Jun Wushuang's faces turned pale. However, the two of them did not turn around to escape. Instead, they looked at each other and saw the heavy look in each other's eyes. Although the two of them had not followed Yi Xian for long, they knew that Yi Xian was a person with great capabilities. At this moment, Yi Xian was merely a clone. Even if the two supreme experts were to strike, they might not be able to truly kill Yi Xian. Destruction, hand him over. Otherwise, don't blame me for striking. The heaven-devouring devil master said coldly. You? The destruction lord's face was pale. The undying heaven lord was already suppressing him. Now that there was another heaven-devouring devil master, even if he wanted to protect Yi Xian, there was nothing he could do. Both of these supreme beings were stronger than him. He did not have the ability to fight against them at all. The two of you are the strongest, yet you don't care about your reputation and want to kill a junior? Aren't you afraid of being laughed at? The destruction lord did not dare to make a move because once he did, he would be suppressed by the two supreme experts. At this moment, he was shouting angrily, hoping that the two supreme experts would care about their reputation. It was a pity, whether it was the undying heaven lord or the heaven-devouring devil master. Although they did care about their reputation, they cared more about their own interests. The undying heaven lord wanted to kill Yi Xian and completely eliminate this future threat. Even if Yi Xian was indeed not Yi Xian, he would rather kill the wrong person than let him off. As for the heaven-devouring devil master, he came this time because he believed that Yi Xian was Yi Xian. It was not just because of the undying heaven lord. It was because Yi Xian had massacred in the 100 Seedlings battlefield and absorbed endless blood energy and cultivation. At that time, he had already suspected Yi Xian's identity. The heaven-devouring devil master came this time for only one purpose, and that was to verify Yi Xian's true identity and force Yi Xian to hand over the true tribulation transcender technique. As mentioned before, Yi Xian and the heaven-devouring devil master made a deal. The two of them exchanged the tribulation transcender technique and the heaven-devouring demonic art. However, both of them were careful and gave each other problematic cultivation techniques. Yi Xian obtained the heaven-devouring demonic art, but he did not cultivate it. He only comprehended the profound meaning of the heaven-devouring demonic art and integrated it into his own heaven-burial art. The heaven-devouring devil master was different. He crazily cultivated the tribulation transcender technique that Yi Xian gave him. His supreme cultivation base increased day by day, and he was faintly moving toward that mysterious forbidden realm. However, a problem appeared. The tribulation transcender technique that Yi Xian gave him had a flaw, and this flaw alone caused a big problem. It directly caused the heaven-devouring devil master's cultivation base to stagnate, and there were faint signs of a backlash. The heaven-devouring devil master naturally realized that the tribulation transcender technique was not complete, and that it was Yi Xian who was playing tricks. When he received the news of Yi Xian's death, the heaven-devouring devil master was extremely disappointed. However, with the opening of the 100 Seedlings battlefield, the heaven-devouring devil master accidentally discovered that Yi Xian was absorbing blood energy. This naturally made him suspicious of Yi Xian. Later, the undying heaven lord found him, and even suspected that Yi Xian was Yi Xian. Only then did the two of them come together. Destruction. I will give you 3 breaths of time to hand him over to us immediately. If you still want to protect him, you should know the consequences. The undying heaven lord said coldly, and the power of nirvanic extermination surrounded the sky. The heaven-devouring devil master did not say anything, but a terrifying black fog spread out. Chapter 1685. Damn it! The Destruction Lord growled in hatred. However, he didn't dare to attack the 2 utmost powerful beings, because he couldn't bear the price of doing so. If he fought the 2 utmost powerful beings with his life on the line, he might be suppressed on the spot or even die. Even if he was an utmost powerful being, he still cherished his life. Moreover, if he continued to protect Yi Xian now, his destruction demon hall would be completely wiped out when the 2 utmost powerful beings attacked. As an utmost powerful being, the Destruction Lord knew very well how terrifying they were. It was impossible for him to fight against 2 utmost powerful beings alone. After all, he wasn't the Chaos and Destiny Spacetime, who could summon the 3 long rivers. He wasn't the Lord of Human Tao, who could be called the number 1 utmost powerful being. He wasn't the Lord of all spirits, who could be invincible in the 10th Eon. Other than being able to stand shoulder to shoulder with the Extreme Love Lord, his cultivation base was still a level lower than the 2 utmost powerful beings before him. Xiao Yui. Finally, the Destruction Lord's face turned red. He chose to compromise. If he had to sacrifice himself and the Destruction Demon Hall for Yi Xiaoyu, he could still tell which was more important. You don't have to say any more. At this moment, Yi Xian calmly spoke and slowly walked out from the crowd behind him. Li Taichu and Jun Wushuang's expressions changed greatly. Just as they were about to speak up to stop him, they were stopped by Yi Xian's gaze. Looking at Yi Xian walking towards him, the undying heaven lord coldly smiled and said, "The so-called schemes and tricks are petty and insignificant in the face of absolute power. No matter how heaven-defying your methods are, it's useless. I can crush you with my own strength." You're right. Any schemes are useless in the face of absolute power. Yi Xian nodded slowly. Yi Xian had always understood this logic. However, his strength wasn't enough to challenge the utmost powerful beings. He had no choice but to resort to schemes. However, although Yi Xian didn't expect things to come to this point, Yi Xian wasn't unprepared. He had always been prepared for the worst. Come with us, the heaven-devouring demon master said calmly. However, his gaze toward Yi Xian was filled with cruelty and depth. Clearly, killing Yi Xian was not his goal. The key was to verify Yi Xian's identity. How would I dare to refuse an invitation from two supreme beings? Yi Xian faintly smiled. He slowly walked before the two powerhouses. There was no fear on his face. Instead, he was calm. If you say you're not Yi Xian, do you think this lord will believe you? Looking at Yi Xian's calm demeanor, the undying Heaven Lord's face turned gloomier and gloomier. In the face of two supreme experts' killing intent, Yi Xian remained unmoved like a mountain. The god of Deathless had only ever seen Yi Xian in such a situation. He was absolutely certain that no one in the entire Chaosverse could be as calm as Yi Xian. So what if I believe it or not? Aren't I in your hands now? Yi Xian retorted sarcastically. There's no need to talk to him anymore. Let's go. Boom. The heaven-devouring demon master directly pulled Yi Xian to his side and turned into a beam of light that shot into the distance. The undying Heaven Lord followed behind, and the three of them disappeared in the blink of an eye. Ice. Looking at the two supreme beings who had brought Yi Xian away, the Destruction Lord let out a long sigh. His face was filled with bitterness and humiliation. He was a supreme being. To think that he couldn't even protect his disciple. This time around, he had lost all his face. However, he had no choice but to lower his head. Who asked him to be unable to fight against two supreme beings? This lord will remember the humiliation today. In the future, I will definitely return it tenfold. The Destruction Lord roared venomously as a trace of madness flashed through his eyes. Initially, he didn't want to take that step. However, the humiliation today had completely awakened him. From today onwards, this lord will go into seclusion to cultivate. All the disciples of the Destruction Demon Hall are not to head out unless there's something important. The Destruction Lord passed down his decree and turned into a beam of black light as he returned to the Destruction Shrine. As the doors of the shrine closed, he disappeared as well. What should we do? Li Taichu and Jun Wushuang looked at each other with fear in their eyes. Didn't Master say that if anything were to happen, he would ask us to look for the North Region's Celestial Court and wait for him there? Jun Wushuang frowned. But do you think that he can survive? Li Taichu frowned. He should be able to. Don't forget that he is Yi Xian. He has escaped from the hands of supreme beings many times. You and I don't know what cards he has lost. Jun Wushuang said. All right. Li Taichu's eyes lit up when he heard that. The two of them turned into beams of light and headed north. The chaos was boundless, and the universe was vast. Numerous ancient stars were revolving while numerous waves of stars were surging, and they created a magnificent and peerless scene. It was a lonely star. Boom! Three figures suddenly appeared. With a loud bang, Yi Xian's body slammed into the ground. Yi Xian, reveal your true body. The heaven-devouring demon master said as he directly sealed the star. No matter how capable Yi Xian was, he could forget about escaping. Why are you talking so much nonsense with him? Just kill him. The undying Heaven Lord took a step forward and raised his 5 fingers. Clearly, he wanted to kill Yi Xian with a single strike and get rid of his greatest threat. He can't die now. Without waiting for the undying Heaven Lord to make a move, the heaven-devouring demon master stopped him. This was because he had yet to verify Yi Xian's true body and obtain the complete Calamity Immortal technique. How could he let the undying Heaven Lord kill Yi Xian? Heaven-devouring, what are you doing? The undying Heaven Lord's expression changed slightly. You can kill him if you want, but I want to ask him a few questions first. If he really isn't Yi Xian, you can do whatever you want with him. The heaven-devouring demon master said solemnly. You? The undying Heaven Lord's face turned cold. In the end, he didn't act ruthlessly. After all, he had to give the heaven-devouring demon master face. Yi Xian, you've already come this far. There's no way you can escape. Are you still not going to reveal your identity? The heaven-devouring demon master said deeply. Hee hee. Suddenly Yi Xian laughed. It was just that his laughter was very strange. He was fearless in the face of the two supreme killing intent. What are you laughing at? The undying Heaven Lord glared at him. I'm laughing at how the two of you are really idiots. Do you really think you can kill me? Yi Xian said indifferently. You're about to die and you still dare to talk big? The undying Heaven Lord narrowed his eyes. Talk big. Yi Xian walked slowly. Suddenly, he stopped and looked at the undying Heaven Lord. Undying old thief. I have to say that you're quite capable. Just based on your intuition, you're sure that I'm Yi Xian. Rumble. After Yi Xian finished speaking, the teleportation channel opened with a loud bang. His original body slowly walked out of the teleportation channel, as an extremely terrifying might blossomed from it. External incarnation? It's really you. When Yi Xian's original body walked out of the teleportation tunnel, the two supreme experts cried out in alarm, especially the undying Heaven Lord. His eyes turned scarlet red, and a killing intent that could pierce through the heavens and earth spread out. Although the undying Heaven Lord had always thought that Yi Xian was Yi Xian, it was only a suspicion. Only when Yi Xian's original body walked out did he truly confirm Yi Xian's identity. Back then, this lord clearly beat you to death in body and soul. How could you possibly have survived? The undying Heaven Lord was shocked. Although he was sure of Yi Xian's identity, he still felt uneasy. One must know that he had personally killed Yi Xian back then. He had truly destroyed Yi Xian's body and soul. How did he survive? The undying Heaven Lord was terrified. He felt that Yi Xian must not be left alive. Devouring heaven, he has the forbidden escape technique. We must not let him escape. The undying Heaven Lord quickly reminded the heaven-devouring demon lord. Forbidden escape technique? The heaven-devouring demon lord's face changed. He had not expected Yi Xian to have such a technique. Escape. Just as the two supreme experts were on guard against Yi Xian's escape, Yi Xian smiled strangely and said, I have no intention of escaping. Today, I also want to know how big the gap is between me and an ancient supreme expert. External incarnation, all techniques return to one. Rumble. His roar shattered the starry skies and exploded the sea of stars. Yi Xian roared towards the sky. His clone and main body actually started to overlap. In just an instant, the clone and main body actually fused together. Boom! Heaven-burying reincarnation, 9 great heavenly gates. Streams of terrifying heaven-burying reincarnation swept across the starry skies. The halo of reincarnation was terrifying, causing the entire starry skies to distort. Chapter 1686. Powerful. Powerful. Terrifyingly powerful. At this moment, Yi Xian's strength had completely exceeded that of an immortal realm expert. The power that erupted from his body disturbed the starry sky and the universe. Even the law of chaos was crumbling inch by inch. His cultivation? The undying Heaven Lord roared in shock. His eyes were wide open, as he couldn't believe that Yi Xian's cultivation had reached such a powerful level. Yi Xian, what an impressive external incarnation technique. I've underestimated him. The sky-devouring demon master said in fear. The two omnipotent beings looked at Yi Xian with a heavy expression. Their eyes were filled with fear and unconcealable killing intent. The two omnipotent beings weren't afraid of Yi Xian's cultivation. What they were truly afraid of was Yi Xian's potential. How long had it been? Yi Xian had actually grown to such a terrifying level. He was a serious threat to the two omnipotent beings. The two omnipotent beings were well aware of how powerful an immortal realm expert was. At this moment, Yi Xian had already surpassed the limits of an immortal realm expert. He was almost comparable to a half-step omnipotent being. If they allowed Yi Xian to continue cultivating, they might not even have the means to stop Yi Xian before the end of the 10th period. Perhaps, he might even surpass them. Dong dong dong. As if the 9 heavens were hanging upside down, and the universe was rumbling, Yi Xian's body emitted the light of heaven burial reincarnation. He walked towards the two omnipotent beings step by step. With every step Yi Xian took, the starry sky trembled violently. The rotating stars exploded one after another, unparalleled throughout the ages, shocking the entire world. At this moment, Yi Xian was too powerful. Even when facing the oppression of the two omnipotent beings, his brilliance couldn't be overshadowed. Yi Xian didn't leave. He didn't run away either. This time he faced the two omnipotent beings head-on. His entire body emitted an unparalleled confidence and a soaring battle intent. Heaven-destroying halberd. Wang! Yi Xian roared into the starry skies. His forehead flashed violently as a 3-inch halberd slowly appeared. It then transformed into a 3-foot-long halberd that fell into his hand. Nirvana battle armor. At the same time, a black battle suit was draped over his body. A ferocious beast head appeared in front of Yi Xian, and it let out an angry roar that was like that of an ancient beast. Boom! In the universe that held up the sky, the great halberd rumbled. Yi Xian held the halberd and pointed it at the two supreme beings from afar. Killing intent that could bury the heavens and destroy the earth gushed out in a frenzy. It's said that those below the omnipotent are ants. Today, let me, a tiny ant, experience the might of the omnipotent. Unbridled, unruly, and lawless. Yi Xian was laughing maniacally. Even though he was facing two of the most powerful beings of all time, there was no fear in his eyes. Instead, he was eager to try. How long has it been? Yi Xian could no longer remember. He only remembered that since he entered the chaotic universe, these so-called omnipotent beings of all time had been pressuring him, and he had even experienced countless life and death crises. This time, Yi Xian wanted to see how big the gap was between him and the omnipotent beings of all time after opening the 9 heavenly gates and fusing with his doppelganger. You're courting death. Undying Heaven Lord roared. At this moment, Yi Xian did not take them seriously at all. This was a blatant provocation. Kill! The Undying Heaven blade appeared in his hand. Undying Heaven Lord slashed out with his blade. Millions of miles of Nirvana blade light streaked across the starry skies and universe, destroying countless stars as it headed straight for Yi Xian. Eternal reincarnation. Boom! Facing the Undying Heaven Lord's blade, Yi Xian's scalp went numb. He could feel the danger of death, but he was not afraid. He brazenly struck out with his halberd. Rumble! The starry skies exploded, and the laws collapsed. This halberd's eternal reincarnation shattered the laws of the heavens, and it even contained a hint of the profound meaning of reincarnation, creating an extreme terror. Bam! The chaos exploded, and the starry skies trembled. The attacks of the two collided, and a blinding brilliance burst out, followed by an unimaginable power. Rumble! The starry skies were collapsing, and the laws in the air were recombining, turning into a land of nothingness. Chi! At the next moment, Yi Xian's entire body flew backwards until he flew 1,000,000 miles away. Only then did he stabilize himself in the starry sky. On the other side, crack! The sound of metal cracking rang out. The long blade in the hands of the Undying Heaven Lord cracked like a spider web. With a loud boom, the Undying Heaven blade shattered in the starry skies. Such a scene! This caused the heaven-devouring demon master, who was watching from the side, to frown. He stared at Yi Xian in the distance with a heavy look in his eyes. He took it. He actually withstood the most powerful attack. Even though the heaven-devouring demon master looked calm on the surface, his heart was in turmoil. He could not believe that this was real. Everyone below the strongest was an ant. This was not just a saying but a law of chaos. Who in the universe could take the strongest attack? No one had ever heard of it, and no one had ever done it. But today, Yi Xian actually broke this iron law. He actually received the attack of the Undying Heaven Lord, and even shattered the weapon of the Undying Heaven Lord. He was still able to survive. At this moment, not only was the heaven-devouring demon master shocked, but the Undying Heaven Lord's face was also terrifyingly gloomy. He had failed. Yi Xian was actually able to block his attack. He could not believe it, and did not dare to believe it. The most important thing was that the Undying Heaven blade was personally forged by him, but it was destroyed by Yi Xian. Of course, the Undying Heaven Lord knew that the destruction of his weapon was largely due to Yi Xian's heaven-destroying halberd. After all, the heaven-destroying halberd was known as the #1 killing weapon of all time. But from another perspective, if Yi Xian did not have a strong cultivation, he would not be able to control the heaven-destroying halberd, let alone shatter his weapon. All of a sudden, just as the Undying Heaven Lord was shocked, he felt a pain on his cheek, and a warm liquid flowed down his cheek. This is... The Undying Heaven Lord rubbed his cheek in a daze. A drop of blood dripped onto his hand. After that he froze on the spot. Blood. Blood. The blood of an omnipotent. It was the blood of the undying Heaven Lord. He was injured. The undying Heaven Lord was injured by that attack? Although it was only a small wound, it caused the undying Heaven Lord's complexion to turn ashen and red. An extremely ruthless aura burst forth from him. He was the strongest of all time. He was the undying Heaven Lord. But he was injured by an ant. This was simply a fantasy, and he did not dare to believe it. This kid has comprehended the reincarnation ultimacy. Don't fail miserably. Suddenly, the heaven-devouring demon master reminded in a deep voice, and a look of horror flashed across his eyes. He did not expect Yi Xian to have grown to such an extent that he could injure the undying Heaven Lord. Although this injury was insignificant, he knew that if Yi Xian continued to grow, it would not be so simple. 1,000,000 miles away, Yi Xian stood with his halberd, but his face was pale, and blood was flowing from the corner of his mouth. Chapter 1687. Barely. Too barely. Just now, when he exchanged blows with the undying Heaven Lord, Yi Xian had already used all his cultivation. He had even used the attack character formula and the tribulation transcender transformation. However, he had only blocked the strongest attack of the undying Heaven Lord. Although the heaven-punishing halberd had scratched the other party's skin, it did not cause any substantial damage to the undying Heaven Lord. Gap. Yi Xian finally understood that there was still an insurmountable gap between him and the strongest of all time. Even if he had comprehended the profound meaning of the 12 heavenly gates and merged his main body with his avatar, he could only block the attack of the strongest. Moreover, he had to use all his strength. Boom! In the next moment, the two supreme experts arrived together and instantly appeared in front of Yi Xian. Especially the undying Heaven Lord. His expression was terrifyingly gloomy, and an extremely tyrannical killing intent filled the air. Yi Xian, hand over the complete tribulation transcender technique, and I can leave you an intact corpse. The heaven-devouring demon master had already lost his patience. He stared at Yi Xian gloomily. You want the tribulation transcender technique? Has your brain been kicked by a donkey? Although Yi Xian's mouth was bleeding, it did not stop him from mocking the heaven-devouring demon master. Heaven-devouring, he won't give it to you. Don't think that you can get lucky. Only by killing him can we solve this problem, the undying Heaven Lord scolded. You want to kill me? It's still too early for you. Yi Xian laughed sinisterly. He actually attacked first. The heaven-punishing halberd swung the vast starry sky and charged towards the two strongest. Crazy. He was really crazy. The two strongest were completely stunned on the spot, because they could not understand. Yi Xian was clearly not their match, but he still dared to attack them? Other than Yi Xian being crazy, they could not understand why Yi Xian was so bold. Bang! The heaven-devouring demon master slapped out with his palm, and directly sent Yi Xian flying. This attack directly cracked Yi Xian's body, and even the Nirvana battle armor dissipated. Puff! A mouthful of blood spurted out from Yi Xian's mouth. However, he let out a sinister laugh, and turned back to attack the heaven-devouring demon master with his halberd. Bang! This time, the undying Heaven Lord launched another attack at Yi Xian, directly injuring Yi Xian to the brink of death. Large amounts of blood seeped out from his body. Strongest of all times? I think you're just two pieces of trash. If you can't even kill me, why don't you just kill yourselves? Rumble. Eternal reincarnation, burying the heavens and destroying the earth. Yi Xian was bathed in blood. He kept his heaven-destroying halberd and blasted out his Aeon reincarnation fist towards the two utmost powerful beings. The terrifying buried reincarnation fist radiance blasted towards the two utmost powerful beings. Die! Heaven-devouring demon master finally lost his patience. He no longer expected Yi Xian to hand over the tribulation transcender technique. Instead, he struck with his strongest blow, intending to kill Yi Xian on the spot. Yi Xian, it's time for you to die. At the same time, the undying Heaven Lord let out a cruel roar, and also struck with his strongest blow, intending to kill Yi Xian on the spot. With the two utmost powerful beings joining forces, even the Lord of Destruction would suffer, let alone Yi Xian, who had opened the 9 heavenly gates. At this moment, facing the killing blow of the two utmost powerful beings, there was no fear on Yi Xian's face. Instead, the corners of his mouth curled into a strange sneer, because this was the moment he had been waiting for. Boom! With the combined forces of the utmost powerful beings, death was certain. With an earth-shattering explosion, Yi Xian was directly blown up in the starry sky, truly dying in body and soul. It was over. Everything was over. When the two utmost powerful beings witnessed Yi Xian's death, they stood in the starry sky speechless. It was because Yi Xian's death was too simple. It was so simple that they couldn't believe it. He's dead, the heaven-devouring demon master asked. I don't know. The undying heaven lord's face was gloomy. He kept looking around the starry sky, trying to sense if Yi Xian was still alive. Back then, he and the Master of Destiny had joined forces to kill Yi Xian, and Yi Xian was personally killed by him. However, Yi Xian still appeared alive. At this moment, even if the two of them joined forces to kill Yi Xian once again, the undying heaven lord was already like a bird startled by the twang of a bow. He couldn't be sure if Yi Xian was truly dead. Wait! Suddenly, the undying heaven lord said gloomily. He sat cross-legged in the starry sky. If Yi Xian could really come back from the dead, he would definitely appear again. The undying heaven lord didn't want to give Yi Xian any chance, because Yi Xian's methods were too terrifying. If he didn't kill Yi Xian completely, Yi Xian would become a huge threat to him sooner or later. Seeing that the undying heaven lord didn't leave, the heaven-devouring demon master also sat down cross-legged. The two utmost powerful beings waited together until they were sure that Yi Xian was truly dead. Only then would they leave. The darkness was boundless. The void was silent. A bit of true spirit was glowing faintly, revealing a mysterious aura. Life-stealing technique. All of a sudden, Yi Xian's angry roar rang out. This bit of true spirit trembled continuously, erupting with a terrifying vitality. That's right. Life-stealing technique. The real reason why Yi Xian chose to fight with the two utmost powerful beings was because of the life-stealing technique. It was also the method to open the 10th gate of heaven. From the beginning to the end, Yi Xian had never thought that he could fight against the two strongest experts. When he fought against the two strongest experts, he had already expected that he would die without a doubt. And Yi Xian's real goal was his life-stealing technique. Life-stealing technique. A forbidden technique. It had a 50% chance of reviving someone from the dead. If the person who used this technique could come back to life, his cultivation would double. This was also the heaven-defying part of the life-stealing technique. And the key to Yi Xian opening the 10th gate of heaven was this life-stealing technique. The fusion of his doppelganger and the original body directly caused Yi Xian's cultivation to skyrocket. However, to open the 10th gate of heaven, this was far from enough. Therefore, only the life-stealing technique could help him open the 10th gate of heaven. This was Yi Xian's real goal. And the two utmost powerful beings were just being used by Yi Xian. This was also the reason why Yi Xian didn't use the calamity transformation to escape. Instead, he fought with the two utmost powerful beings. In fact, when Yi Xian opened the 9th gate of heaven, he already had the idea of opening the 10th gate of heaven. Yi Xian had also pondered for a long time about what method he could use to open the 10th gate of heaven. One had to know that every time the original body opened a gate of heaven, the amount of resources consumed was simply unimaginable. Even if he could devour them like crazy, how many people would be enough for him to kill? Moreover, it would take a long time to devour his cultivation. The urgency in Yi Xian's heart made it so that he couldn't wait. Finally, Yi Xian thought of a bold and crazy plan. Life-stealing technique. If he could survive the life-stealing technique, with the fusion of his original body and doppelganger, his cultivation would double, and he would definitely be able to open the 10th gate of heaven. Yi Xian was gambling with his life. This was why the previous series of events had happened. Although the arrival of the heaven-devouring demon master was an accident, it didn't affect Yi Xian's plan. Finally, Yi Xian borrowed the hands of the two utmost powerful beings and fell into a death trap again. This was also the second time he used the life-stealing technique. His goal was to open the 10th gate of heaven. Chapter 1688. The darkness was boundless, like a prison. There was silence in all directions. Buzz. Yi Xian's true spirit was buzzing, constantly surging with an extremely majestic vitality. Clearly, he was using the life calamity technique to resurrect himself and fight against the heavens. Kacha. Suddenly, a strange sound came from the dark space. Yi Xian's true spirit was actually being destroyed. The majestic vitality that had surged out disappeared without a trace in the next moment. How could this be? Yi Xian roared in horror. His consciousness was starting to become muddled after using the life calamity technique. The true crisis of death was attacking him. He had failed. Yi Xian's life calamity technique had failed. This was also the result that Yi Xian did not want to accept the most. But he had to accept it, because his luck was not good this time. It was previously said that the life calamity technique only had a 50% chance of resurrecting the dead. But there was also a 50% chance of causing the soul to scatter and die. The life calamity technique was a double-edged sword. It could strengthen oneself, but it could also kill oneself. And the price of failure was death. At this moment, Yi Xian's true spirit was collapsing. No matter how much he roared in unwillingness, he could not reverse the failure of the life calamity technique. He had lost the gamble. This time, he had lost his life. There was no eternal winner in this world. Even Yi Xian was no exception. He had gambled with his life to open the 10th gate of heaven. But this time, he had not won. What could he do? Although he was unwilling, Yi Xian could only put down the matter of opening the 10th gate of heaven. More importantly, he had to save his own life. However, Yi Xian's consciousness was gradually blurring. A strong sense of drowsiness invaded him. This was a sign that his body and soul were about to be destroyed. It made Yi Xian feel the great terror that death brought to him. No one wanted to die. Yi Xian was no exception. The only outcome of failing to use the life calamity technique was death. However, Yi Xian had always been a person who planned ahead. No matter what he did, he was always prepared for the worst. The life-stealing technique was extremely dangerous. It was half life and half death. And Yi Xian had naturally thought of the price of failure, so he was prepared for it. Avatar. Suddenly, just as Yi Xian's body and soul were about to be destroyed, a white light suddenly appeared. It was the external avatar he had condensed, which was also Yi Xian's so-called clone. It was mentioned before that the external incarnation Great Divine Ability was an extremely powerful technique. Not only could it create an independent clone, but the most important thing was that it could die in place of the user once, allowing the user to avoid the calamity of being destroyed in both body and soul. At this moment, the failure of the life calamity art meant that Yi Xian's death was certain. However, he had cultivated an avatar. Only the death of his avatar could save his life. Bang! The avatar's true spirit shattered and disappeared into the dark space. The surging deathly aura receded like a receding tide. Yi Xian had finally used his avatar to help him survive this calamity of death. Damn it! An indignant roar was heard. Yi Xian was furious but speechless. He had risked his life this time, but he had still lost in the end. However, what made Yi Xian rejoice was that the cultivation of his clone had long since merged with his original body. What disappeared was only his clone. However, the failure of the life-stealing technique also meant that he could not open the 10th gate of heaven. This was undoubtedly a huge blow to Yi Xian. Calm down. Yi Xian forced himself to calm down. He knew that no matter how indignant he was, it was useless. The only thing he needed to do now was to restore his physical body and walk out of this damned dark space. When Yi Xian calmed down, his true spirit suddenly discovered that the two supreme existences in the outside world had not left. Instead, they were sitting cross-legged in the starry sky. Damn it! Yi Xian muttered hatefully. He did not expect the undying Heaven Lord to be so cautious. Suddenly, Yi Xian exclaimed in bewilderment. He discovered something that shocked him to the core. His true spirit was actually twice as large as before, and his vitality was also extremely abundant. What's going on? Didn't the life-stealing technique fail? Yi Xian muttered in surprise. He felt the majestic vitality contained in his true spirit, and was completely stunned by this situation. Finally, Yi Xian discovered the reason. His life-stealing technique had indeed failed, and his avatar had died for him because of the failure. However, his true spirit still existed, which meant that he had succeeded halfway. At this moment, Yi Xian could clearly feel that although his cultivation had not doubled, it had still grown at a terrifying rate. He had already reached the peak of the 9th gate of heaven. Unfortunately, if the life-stealing technique had succeeded, he could have opened the 10th gate of heaven. However, Yi Xian was already very satisfied. The life-stealing technique could save his life and increase his cultivation at a terrifying rate. This was already a blessing in disguise. The only problem now is how to condense his physical body. After all, the two supreme existences were waiting outside. If he condensed his physical body and appeared, he would definitely face the danger of death again. Could it be that he had to use the life-stealing technique again? Wait, Yi Xian had no other choice. He could not condense his physical body now. So his only choice was to wait until the two supreme existences left. This was a competition of patience. It depended on whose patience ran out. Yi Xian was in the dark while the two supreme existences were in the light. Moreover, Yi Xian had never lacked the so-called patience. The boring wait was also an annoying thing. Yi Xian calmed himself down. He silently sensed the dark space he was in. A strange thought emerged in his mind, which made him secretly size up this dark space. This was the second time he had appeared here. The first time he only stayed for a short while. This time, he stayed for a long time, which gave him the opportunity to observe this dark space. After observing for a while, Yi Xian's heart trembled violently. This was because he had discovered something that shocked him to the extreme. At this moment, the dark space he was in was like a black prison, trapping his true spirit within. Outside the black prison, there were a large number of black light spots roaming. He could faintly sense an extremely terrifying aura of death. And this aura of death was extremely familiar to Yi Xian. This was because the aura of death roaming outside the black prison was exactly the same as the forbidden energy that surrounded the forbidden figures. What's going on? Yi Xian muttered in shock. He believed that he had not sensed wrongly. These black light spots outside the black prison were the aura of death of the forbidden figures. When Yi Xian discovered this extremely shocking thing, his entire body trembled. He was even more confused about the connection between this place and the forbidden figures. Where was this? The world after death? Was this the source of the aura of death? A series of questions appeared in Yi Xian's mind. He was shocked as he pondered. He felt that this space of death he was in contained a huge secret, and this secret was definitely related to the forbidden figures. Chapter 1689. According to the taboo characters Yi Xian had seen in the past, each of them contained a terrifying death ray. This death ray was also known as the taboo energy. In other words, the death ray that was roaming outside the black prison was the so-called taboo energy? If I can devour the taboo energy then... Suddenly, Yi Xian muttered in a trembling voice. An extremely bold and crazy idea appeared in his mind, which made Yi Xian's heart tremble. Yi Xian was a daring person. As long as there was an opportunity to increase his cultivation, he would definitely not let it go. Yi Xian had seen how terrifying the taboo characters were. Even the combined forces of the 10 strongest beings could not defeat the eternal shadow. This also proved how terrifying the taboo characters were. At this moment, the death ray outside the black prison was the so-called taboo energy. Moreover, it was an ownerless taboo energy. Yi Xian naturally had an idea. If he could devour some of the taboo energy, would he be able to open the 10th gate of heaven? Would he also be able to possess the terrifying cultivation of the taboo characters? Thinking of this, Yi Xian was extremely excited. He made a decision in his heart that he would definitely not let go of this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. However, there was a problem. At this moment, the black prison he was in had completely imprisoned him. How could he break out of the black prison and devour the taboo energy? Fortunately, Yi Xian was a daring person. He directly controlled his true spirit to try to break out of the black prison. However, in the next moment, Yi Xian was directly bounced back. He could not break out of the black prison's seal, let alone come into contact with the taboo energy outside. What exactly is this place? Yi Xian muttered in a trembling voice. Although he had lost his physical body, his true spirit contained all of his cultivation. However, he could not break out of the black prison's seal. Calamity transformation. Buzz. Yi Xian did not believe it. He directly used the calamity transformation on his true spirit. After all, the calamity transformation was known as a taboo escape technique. It should be able to escape from the black prison. Bang! In the next moment, a loud bang was heard. Yi Xian was sent flying again. Even the heaven calamity transformation had no effect on him. Yi Xian was speechless. Even the heaven calamity transformation couldn't break through the seal. This made Yi Xian extremely speechless. Fortunately, he wasn't someone who gave up easily. Although the heaven calamity transformation couldn't break through the seal, he had plenty of time. He could keep trying to break through this dark prison. Yi Xian was a man of action. He no longer tried to force his way through. Instead, he began to study the black prison. Finally, Yi Xian discovered something that shocked him. The dark prison he was in wasn't the only one. There were many other black prisons like him in the outside world, but he couldn't see what was going on in the other prisons. There were dozens of these black cells, and a large amount of forbidden energy circled around them, making them appear even more mysterious and profound. What is this place? Yi Xian was extremely shocked. However, he couldn't figure out the crux of the matter. He could only name this dark space as the land of death. This was because this was the world after death. There was no better way to describe this place than the land of death. Yi Xian suppressed the shock in his heart. He knew that this land of death was definitely not simple. It was inextricably linked to a forbidden figure. It wasn't something he could figure out. Yi Xian suppressed the curiosity in his heart. His only task now was to devour the forbidden energy in the outside world. Dig. Since he couldn't break through the dark prison he was in, Yi Xian chose to dig a hole for himself. Yi Xian's true spirit buzzed. All kinds of profound arts spread out, trying to dig a hole in the dark prison. Unfortunately, no matter what profound arts Yi Xian used, he couldn't shake the dark prison in the slightest, let alone dig a hole. It seems that this is the only way. Rumble. The dark prison was shaking. Yi Xian didn't give up. Although all the profound arts were useless, he still had the reincarnation profound that he had comprehended. Indeed, the moment the reincarnation profound was used, it actually tore a hole. Although it was just a tiny bit, it was enough to make Yi Xian excited. Wang. Yi Xian's true spirit buzzed. He evolved the reincarnation profound, and like a chisel, he kept digging towards a point. A faint black crack appeared. This made Yi Xian know that he had chosen the right path. He dug even more excitedly. In the chaotic starry sky, the boundless universe, the two supreme experts sat for a long time. They had waited for 10,000 years, but they didn't see Yi Xian at all, let alone feel Yi Xian's aura. Undying, he's already dead. Why are we still sitting here? The heaven-devouring demon master frowned. Hearing the heaven-devouring demon master's words, the undying heaven lord shook his head coldly. That brat is full of tricks. Back then fate and I worked together to kill him. I even destroyed his body and soul with my own hands. But he still appeared alive. This time he died too easily. Didn't you see the smile on his face before he died? That was a naked mockery to you and me. He's definitely still alive. The undying heaven lord said with certainty. He had suffered a lot at the hands of Yi Xian, and had a lot of experience. He didn't believe that Yi Xian would die so easily. Then how long do we have to wait? The heaven-devouring demon master frowned. We have to keep waiting. Even if it's 10 million years, or 100 million years, we have to wait. The undying heaven lord said solemnly. Undying, you're already a frightened bird. Are you so afraid that he's still alive? Looking at the undying Heaven Lord's gloomy face, the heaven-devouring demon master sneered. He couldn't understand why the undying Heaven Lord was so obsessed with Yi Xian. Humph. The undying Heaven Lord snorted coldly. You've spent too little time with him. You don't understand his methods at all. If we don't kill him, we'll have an eternal enemy in the future. The undying Heaven Lord paused for a moment before continuing. And don't forget how the Supreme Demon died back then. At the mention of the Supreme Demon Master, the heaven-devouring Demon Master's expression changed. The mockery on his face disappeared. The memory of Yi Xian killing the Supreme Demon was still fresh in his mind. At that time, Yi Xian wasn't as strong as he was now. He had underestimated this person. Wait. The two utmost powerful beings stopped talking and continued to wait. Especially the undying Heaven Lord. He believed that as long as Yi Xian could come back from the dead, he would definitely appear here again. Unfortunately, the two utmost powerful beings didn't know that Yi Xian was focused on digging the darkness prison. How could he have the time to pay attention to them? Land of death, darkness prison. Bang. 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 Yi Xian's true spirit seemed to have turned into a chisel and was trying its best to dig the black light wall in front of him. A hole was constantly expanding. Yi Xian didn't know how long he had been digging. In any case, it wasn't a short time. It was just that his progress was too slow. After such a long time, he had only dug 5 centimeters. Chapter 1690. This barrier is actually so thick. Even Yi Xian found it difficult to continue using the profound meaning of samsara. Fortunately, Yi Xian's willpower was extremely tenacious. He believed that as long as he continued to chisel, he would eventually be able to carve out a hole. Bang! 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 In the deathly silent dark prison, Yi Xian seemed to have transformed into a laborer. He continued to chisel, causing the dark prison to constantly tremble. However, Yi Xian did not know that a pair of dark eyes were silently watching Yi Xian in the land of death. And Yi Xian did not notice it at all. What kind of eyes were these? Emotionless, desireless, indifferent, cold. They did not contain any human emotions. Instead, they exuded an extreme aura of death. This was a pair of eyes of death. They calmly watched Yi Xian. Occasionally, a deep glint would flash through them. This proved that the owner of these eyes had his own emotions. Time slowly passed. It might have been 10,000 years, 100,000 years, or even 1,000,000 years. Yi Xian had already forgotten about the passage of time. He was completely focused on breaking through the dark prison. And in front of him, he had already made a large hole in the black light wall. Kacha! Finally! With a crisp sound, Yi Xian finally made a hole. Although the hole was only the size of a thumb, Yi Xian had indeed succeeded. Great! Yi Xian's originally muddled consciousness was suddenly jolted awake. His originally dim true spirit glowed with a dazzling light once more. But before Yi Xian could observe the hole, something extremely terrifying happened. Qi, the death ray that was traveling through the land of death, entered the dark prison through the hole. In the next moment, it wrapped around Yi Xian's true spirit. Ugh! Ah! A painful groan came from Yi Xian's mouth. The death ray was a forbidden power. Now that it had suddenly wrapped around Yi Xian's head, it was a devastating blow to him. Pain. Extreme pain. Yi Xian felt his true spirit being obliterated as his consciousness rapidly dissipated. This was because the taboo power was crazily eating away at his true spirit. Swallow. Fortunately, Yi Xian calmed down in an instant. He endured the pain of being eaten away by the death light, and began to use the tribulation transcender technique and the heaven-devouring demonic art. He wanted to completely devour and refine this taboo power for his own use. However, it would have been fine if Yi Xian hadn't devoured it. As soon as he did, his true spirit suffered an unimaginable calamity. It was ineffective. The tribulation transcender technique and the heaven-devouring demonic art couldn't devour the taboo power at all. Instead, they began to destroy his true spirit from the inside. What was taboo? As the name implied, taboo was something that couldn't be touched. Yi Xian's audacity in wanting to devour the taboo power was no different from courting death. If power alone was so easy to devour, then the heaven-devouring demon lord would have become a taboo character long ago. How could he be a mere strongest of all ages? Samsara. Just as Yi Xian was about to suffer a great calamity, the heaven-burying samsara mysteries finally erupted and constantly fought with the taboo power. It had to be said, the heaven-burying samsara mysteries that Yi Xian had comprehended really had great power. It was actually able to resist the taboo power. However, Yi Xian was in an extremely dangerous situation at this moment. Although the samsara mysteries temporarily resisted the taboo power, his true spirit was constantly collapsing under the attack of the two great forces. It wouldn't be long before it was destroyed. What should I do? At this moment, Yi Xian was anxious. He didn't expect the taboo power to be so terrifying. It was just a death light, but it wanted to obliterate him. However, Yi Xian was unwilling. Since a taboo character could control this death light, why couldn't he? Refine. Yi Xian calmed his fluctuating mood. His true spirit erupted with a brilliant light. Since devouring was useless against the taboo power, he could only choose to forcibly refine it. Rumble. The samsara halo trembled and enveloped the taboo power. The terrifying samsara mysteries bloomed and destroyed the taboo death light. However, in the next moment, something even more terrifying happened. Another taboo power poured into the broken hole and wrapped around Yi Xian's true spirit. Yi Xian's true spirit was as black as ink. All signs of life dissipated, and a shocking death light appeared. At this moment, Yi Xian was in big trouble. Even if the samsara mysteries were earth-shattering, Yi Xian was only a beginner. The two taboo powers had been in the land of death for countless years. Naturally, they crushed the samsara mysteries. Yi Xian's consciousness was blurring. Extreme death attacked him, and even Yi Xian felt that he would definitely die. There was no solution. There was really no solution. Under the corrosion of the two taboo powers, Yi Xian could not resist at all. He was destined to be obliterated by the taboo death light. There was no chance of survival. However, at this moment, the pair of eyes hidden in the land of death rotated. A dark rune quietly appeared in the dark prison. Buzz. The darkness was boundless, and everything withered. The dark rune was filled with the aura of death. It turned into a black light and instantly fused with Yi Xian's true spirit. It was also at this moment that the two taboo powers that had been devouring Yi Xian calmed down. Then, they fused with Yi Xian's true spirit. There were no longer any signs of them invading Yi Xian. Buzz. In the next moment, Yi Xian's true spirit's vitality surged. It glowed with a dazzling luster. Yi Xian's consciousness also recovered at this moment. What happened? As soon as Yi Xian regained consciousness, he examined his true spirit in shock. He discovered that the two taboo powers that had just invaded him were quietly existing in his true spirit. Oh! Suddenly, Yi Xian seemed to have sensed something. He abruptly looked outside the dark prison, and a pair of death eyes coincidentally met his gaze. Boom! One look. It was just a glance. Yi Xian felt as though his true spirit was about to explode. What kind of eyes were these? Yi Xian could not describe them with any words. If he had to use a word to describe them, there was only one word that could explain them. Death. Yes, death. When Yi Xian saw the pair of eyes, he had no concept of anything in his mind. There was only the word death. This was a pair of eyes of death. It was as though anyone who looked into these eyes would plunge into death. This feeling made Yi Xian tremble. It made him understand what fear was. Yi Xian had never felt true fear, whether it was the strongest of all time, or those legendary taboo figures. However, the appearance of these eyes made Yi Xian understand what fear was. Who are you? Yi Xian stared at the pair of eyes of death, and roared at them in a trembling voice. Unfortunately, the eyes of death were gradually fading away. They did not answer Yi Xian's question at all. At this moment, Yi Xian was absolutely certain that when he was about to be killed by the two taboo powers, it was this pair of eyes of death that had saved him. Why did you save me? Who are you? Yi Xian roared unwillingly. The owner of these eyes was too terrifying. Even the shadow of eternity did not give Yi Xian such a feeling. I didn't save you. I was just preventing him from appearing. Quietly, a calm and deep voice echoed in Yi Xian's ears. However, when Yi Xian heard this voice, his true spirit trembled in fear. Chapter 1691. Just this voice alone gave Yi Xian the illusion that he was about to die. Who are you? Yi Xian forcibly suppressed the fear in his heart and roared in the dark prison, but there was no response. Time passed little by little. Yi Xian kept telling himself to calm down. Finally, Yi Xian calmed his turbulent emotions and finally calmed down. Yi Xian, who had calmed down, discovered something. The hole he had made had been restored to its original state. The forbidden power in the land of death was no longer able to flow into the prison. At this moment, Yi Xian was completely silent. Even his true spirit was extremely stagnant. He could not help but shudder at the sight of this pair of eyes of death. It had never happened before. Yi Xian had never experienced such a terrifying feeling. Just a pair of eyes made him feel like he was about to face death. He was terrified to the extreme. Suddenly, Yi Xian's heart skipped a beat. The pair of eyes of death had left behind a sentence. He did not save me. He only stopped him from appearing. Who was him? Yi Xian's heart was extremely complicated. He already had some guesses, but the more he guessed, the heavier his emotions grew in Yi Xian's heart. Wang. Yi Xian's true spirit was revived. He forcibly dispelled his troubled emotions because he knew that regardless of whether his guesses were true, they were of no use to him now. Powerful. Only by constantly becoming stronger could he truly face everything that happened in the future fearlessly. However, this pair of eyes of death had really taught Yi Xian a lesson. He could vaguely guess who the other party was. If Yi Xian's guess was correct, the owner of this pair of eyes of death should be the taboo of taboo. He should be one of the few people that the taboo character had mentioned. Yi Xian did not know if his guess was true, but the owner of this pair of eyes was definitely more terrifying than the taboo character. Yi Xian was absolutely certain. Yi Xian regained his composure. He examined his true spirit. The two taboo powers existed in his true spirit and did not cause him any harm. Yi Xian tried to activate the two taboo powers. Unfortunately, he did not succeed. Although the two taboo death rays did not cause him any harm, they could not be used by him. Yi Xian did not know if this was a good or bad thing, but now that it was a foregone conclusion, he could only accept it naturally. I can't stay in this place any longer, Yi Xian's muttered. Although the pair of eyes of death did not harm, and instead saved his life, Yi Xian had a premonition that this pair of eyes of death did not have any goodwill. Instead, they were vaguely hostile to him. Yi Xian believed in his intuition. Therefore, he had to leave this place as soon as possible. This place was filled with too many horrors. It was definitely not a place he could step into now. Thinking of this, Yi Xian finally turned his attention to the two supreme existences in the outside world. In the outside world, the two supreme existences had been waiting in the starry sky for 1,000,000 years. However, there were still no changes in the starry sky, let alone seeing any trace of Yi Xian. Undying, you are too cautious. 1,000,000 years have passed. Even if he has the taboo method of resurrection, he should have appeared by now. The heaven-devouring demon master had exhausted all his patience. He stood up from the starry sky and had the intention to leave. Undying, since you are still willing to wait here, then you can wait by yourself. I will take my leave first. The heaven-devouring demon master took a step forward and disappeared from the starry sky. Clearly, he had waited for 1,000,000 years. The heaven-devouring demon master believed that Yi Xian would not be able to come back from the dead. Humph. As the heaven-devouring demon master left, the undying heaven lord snorted coldly. However, a question arose in his heart. Could Yi Xian really be dead this time? Wait. The undying heaven lord had enough patience. Not to mention a mere 1,000,000 years. Even if it was 10,000,000 years, 100,000,000 years, or even the end of the 10th Yuan Hui, he would continue to wait. because the undying Heaven Lord believed that Yi Xian would not die so easily. He would never forget the strange mocking smile on Yi Xian's face before he died. Although the undying Heaven Lord did not know how Yi Xian came back from the dead, he believed that Yi Xian was definitely still alive. And this was the place where Yi Xian fell. It was also his only chance. Dark prison. Yi Xian watched the heaven-devouring demon master leave with his own eyes. He could feel the undying Heaven Lord's determination. He had to admit, at this moment, Yi Xian was really impressed by the undying old crook. The other party's patience was clearly much stronger than his. If this continued, the undying Heaven Lord would be fine. However, Yi Xian could not afford it. Seems like I can only forcefully condense a physical body. Yi Xian muttered. The undying Heaven Lord could wait for him for a Yuan Hui, but Yi Xian could not. If he continued to stay here, he did not know what kind of danger would befall him. The starry sky was boundless. The universe was vast. The undying Heaven Lord sat cross-legged. He calmed his heart and sensed the universe. As long as he sensed Yi Xian's aura, he would be the first to sense it. Undying old crook, you are really patient. Suddenly, a familiar voice entered the undying Heaven Lord's ears. This caused his face to turn ashen. Little dog Yi Xian, I knew you were still alive. Get out here. The undying Heaven Lord suddenly stood up. His supreme power was released. He constantly sensed Yi Xian's location, hoping to find Yi Xian. At this moment, the undying Heaven Lord was both shocked and angry. He was shocked that Yi Xian was still alive, and angry that he could not kill him. Rumble! All of a sudden, the starry sky trembled. Everything froze. Blood chi that filled the sky rushed over from all directions. A little bit of true spirit was born in the starry sky. All the blood chi merged into the true spirit. Yi Xian condensed his physical body and appeared in the starry sky once again. Resurrection from the dead. You can really resurrect from the dead? The undying Heaven Lord roared in shock. He had personally witnessed the process of Yi Xian's resurrection. His entire person was terrified to the extreme. It was unimaginable, and he did not dare to imagine it. As one of the strongest since ancient times, the undying Heaven Lord could not believe that Yi Xian really had a way to resurrect from the dead. After the shock, the undying Heaven Lord's eyes were filled with greed. If he could learn this resurrection method, who would he be afraid of? At this moment, looking at the greedy expression on the undying Heaven Lord's face, Yi Xian's lips curled into a mocking smile. Just now when I condensed my physical body, it was the best time for you to kill me. Unfortunately you gave up so easily. Hearing Yi Xian's words, the undying Heaven Lord calmed his excited heart. His eyes were terrifyingly calm. If this Lord can kill you once, I can kill you a second time. Why do you think I'm waiting for you here? I just want to see if you have a way to resurrect from the dead. Now this Lord can finally confirm it. Yi Xian, a trump card can be used once or twice. However, if you use it too many times, it is no longer a trump card. Today, since I know that you have a way to resurrect from the dead, you won't be so lucky next time. This Lord will definitely make your soul scatter and die. The undying Heaven Lord said coldly. Then he actually left with large strides. He did not look at Yi Xian again, nor did he make a move against Yi Xian. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.